guys! Today we'll be recapping a story called I Don't Want to Be the Magpie Bridge. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy! The story begins with a chase game between a lady in a coat who wants her sword back, claiming she ordered it months ago, and a little kid who has no intention of giving it to her because the store owner sold it to him. The panting lady corners the kid, but she is taken aback when the boy skillfully executes a backflip to evade her grip and proceeds to run. However, the mysterious lady has something up her sleeve. She grabs a pink ball from her bag, which she claims is inspired by her favorite comic book, and despite never having tested her product on humans, throws it at him. And as soon as it strikes him, he shrinks and gets encased inside the ball. It's literally a Pokeball! She playfully looks at him and starts to imply that she will release him if he gives up the sword, leading the angry boy to agree. She rejoices to finally get her hands on the dwarven sword they've been fighting over. She then turns to the child and is prepared to pay him, but it appears that money isn't something this kid is concerned about. Instead, he threatens her not to appear again, or else he will make sure she suffers. After the child departs, she realizes that he gave the sword away for free, which implies she has messed with a rich noble. Despite this, she smiles and seems confident that no one will catch her because the lovely ginger-haired lady she appears to be is actually a disguise. She removes her magical robe and turns back into 13-year-old Juliana West. She was really stunning as a grown-up, but right now she's a lively, fearless little darling. She then takes out her Magpie Bridge Escape checklist book and ticks off one of her achievements, obtaining the sword. When they get to Ogren Academy, Shu's 15-year-old brother Harun is scolding her for nearly missing her entrance ceremony. But Shu's best friend Hestia Flood, a beautiful girl with pink hair and soft features, doesn't care. She just thinks Shu is adorable, which her big bro agrees. Okay, I like seeing a loving bestie and a simp big bro. After ensuring that the two ladies are guided by the school guide, Harun waves goodbye and expresses his delight that they've enrolled in his school. Hestia then discovers that Shu chose the swordsmanship department, which concerns her because it's so unladylike. But our girl doesn't care what others say and is determined to do whatever she wants. Yup, as we all should. Now that they've gathered at the entrance ceremony, our brilliant Shu should be sitting proudly in the front row as an honor student, but she appears to be trying to avoid the spotlight. Then they announce the first year's representative, Keurigord, which she recognizes as the crown prince's name, so she looks at the stage and trembles to realize that it is the young lad she followed, put in a Pokeball, and confiscated his sword, so she's likely screwed. Whoopsie! After the ceremony, Hestia receives all of the boys' attention, but she is uninterested and is only concerned that Shu is not looking good. For obvious reasons, she and the crown prince both attend the same school, and now she learns that they are both majoring in swordsmanship. On top of that, the very mention of his name disturbs her, but she chooses to ignore it and retreat to her room. Hes gets cranky by her enthusiasm, which contrasts with her dislike of the fact that their rooms are so far apart, and she pouts, prompting Shu to pat her head and promise to pay her frequent visits. Hes also claims that she's only concerned that Shu will forget her if the swordsmanship boys take all of her attention, unaware that she is the one who has won the hearts of all the boys, causing Shu to sigh and believe her best friend is such a baby. Adorable besties. Shu cautiously makes her way to her dorm room, where she discovers that third-year student Hazel Minamizu will be her roommate. Shu believes it's bad luck the moment she walks in when she sees her brat-looking girl dormmate, who is so upfront about how she doesn't like having a roommate. But she was very mistaken about this senior. In fact, she is a ball of sunshine. Yay! She's pretty too! Hazel is shocked to find that Shu majors in swordsmanship and aspires to be a knight. She remarks that it will be difficult for her to marry if she becomes a knight, prompting Shu to express her belief that marriage will never guarantee her future, so she prefers to have a solid salary with guaranteed severance pay for retirement. Hazel is ecstatic and proud of her independence and coolness, and Shu grins because she knows how people will react when she tells them she wants to be a knight. Some will think it's strange, like Hestia, and others will think it's amazing, like Hazel. She understands them because it's still uncommon for women to pursue careers in this world, and she may have been one of them if she hadn't had that dream. She began having bizarre dreams at the age of 5, and in them, she sees her past life as Han Yi-un. This is when she realizes she was living in a novel world she had read previously and knew she was destined to suffer. Her family will become bankrupt and she'll be sold as a bride, with Hestia contributing to her misery. No, I like their friendship. Sometimes Yi-an will hold and read the novel, so Shu takes the chance to read it as well, as she does today. So she scans and attempts to find useful information, such as the fact that someone will compel Hestia, and that person is Hylli. She screams as she wakes up that morning, realizing why she hates the Crown Prince's guts. He's one of the main leads. Shu is reincarnated in the novel The Guys Around Hestia, and as you may all have guessed, it is a romance story centered around the grown-up Hestia. Oh my, Hestia looks stunning on the novel cover! Juliana's role is to be her best friend, and despite being a supporting character, she will attract a lot of male attention, which is great, but it's not what you think. These men are merely using her to get closer to Hestia. In short, she is used as a magpie bridge, connecting the female lead to her suitors. Although Shu knows that none of this is Hestia's fault, she is adamant that she will never let herself become that bridge. Hestia pouts because lunch is over, which means her time with her best friend is done as well. Shu goes first to change into her swordsmanship uniform, and while she does so, she realizes that she will not be able to hide from Hylli, and they will undoubtedly meet during class. She regrets that she just changed into her adult appearance and did not entirely conceal herself when she first saw Hylli, which makes her nervous because, despite the disguise, the prince may be sharp enough to recognize her right away. So do you know what this girl does? She shows up to the practice field clad in a towel, which is really drawing more attention to her. With a mischievous grin on her face, she thinks her disguise is going to work. However, her plans are thwarted when the teacher calls for everyone to line up for a one-on-one battle to test their skills. Among the male leads in the novel, the one she least wants to cross paths with is the raving, obsessed Prince Hylli. Not gonna lie, the prince looks incredibly attractive in this mature image of himself. He will approach Juliana, and the innocent girl, unaware of his manipulation, will fall in love with him. And when things don't go his way with Hestia, this insane guy will torment Shu. That is yet in the future, but it is better to be safe than sorry. So our wee potato approaches her teacher and informs him that she is not competent enough to spar. She begs her teacher to let her train alone, but her teacher is determined that her passion for swordsmanship should not be suppressed, just because she's a girl. Although it's great to have a teacher who has her back, his current level of support isn't helping her, particularly because he calls out for Hylli to help her. Uno reverse on her, but we all love a supportive teacher. Ever since Shu started dreaming of her past life, a career in public service has always been Shu's goal. Since royal knights receive the highest pension, she began preparing for this goal at an early age by devoting herself to her education and working out every day. But all of her efforts appear to be going down the drain right now because of her innocent, supportive teacher, who may be the cause she ends up in jail for ridiculing the crown prince. Hylli will have to guide Shu until she's ready to spar, and in exchange, the teacher promises not to tell the emperor that he was slacking off last time, so this young prince accepts. They find a quieter spot to go to, and the second they get there, Hylli urges Shu to take off her towel, but she just shakes her head in protest. This is driving the prince crazy, as he has no idea why a girl behaving so strangely wants to major in swordsmanship, until he realizes something. After staring at the quivering Shu for a while, he finally figures out that she must have joined the department because she has feelings for him. He then strikes a pose, gushing about his good looks, which actually helps Shu relax. I never knew the crown prince had such a cutie side. However, Hylli values their department and does not want her to be part of it since he believes she has dirty motives. So he takes away her sword and walks away, causing Shu to finally snap and detest Hylli for assuming things as if he knew her well. She clearly declares that she is not one of those girls who are crazy about him. Instead, she is someone who loves money. Her eyes sparkle as she explains that being a knight will provide her with riches and prestige, and she takes back her sword, leaving Hylli distraught by her immoral goals. She flashes him a cheeky grin, which catches Hylli off guard because he knows that expression from somewhere. So to confirm his suspicions, he takes her towel off against her will. Indeed, he does remember her as the woman who made fun of him. Shu pretends as if she knows nothing, but the furious prince is confident it's her, since he can never forget her eyes and cunning voice. As she steps back in response to Hylli's command to stop, she utters aloud her unconscious thought that the prince is overreacting. Her remark causes the prince to lose his cool and chase her down, leaving her with no option but to use her quick step magic for a boost, while explaining to her teacher that she needs to use the restroom. She can use magic in that way? Impressive! She returns to her room when she hears her transmitter ring, expecting it to be a call from home. But it is from a man named Carl, who addresses her as Miss Schneeballen. He's not supposed to call her, but he has no other choice because their client needs the camcorder repair rushed, which irritates her right now. However, her tone softens and she assures that it will be sent immediately after Carl mentions that the client is willing to pay more. Her love for money is really something. Although becoming a knight will grant her more freedom, our girl realizes that it won't be enough to support her family. So she takes on a second identity as Schneeballen, a beautiful grown-up lady with reddish hair and a mysterious engineer who fixes underworld magic devices. She wasn't born a genius, but her mastery of programming from a previous life, which matches how magic works, has served her well in her current life, making her an accomplished engineer. Her lovely roommate then appears and promptly asks how her first day was and if she had fun. Hazel mentions that she overheard several swordsmanship students calling one of their female classmates poopy pants, which makes our girl quite humiliated. Rumor has it that the girl skipped class due to constipation, and Hazel believes the girl in question is not Shu, which Shu confirms with a stutter. She is now crying inside because she believes that the Crown Prince is behind it to get revenge on her. I'm sure she will get into more trouble. Poor girlie. While Hestia's friends are chatting with her after lunch, she unexpectedly disappears and tags along with Juliana, much to their surprise. Hestia's short-haired friend finds it strange why someone like Hes keeps hanging around Shu's side when the girl is pretty weird. But the other friend believes Shu must be a good friend because when the boys who have a crush on Hestia ask about her type, she happily says she likes someone like Shu. The novel's female lead needs no man. Perhaps you're curious about where to find these cute best friends. They're actually hiding behind a bush, and cute Hestia is grumbling about how her legs are hurting. Hearing Hylli's screams and his search for her, Shu shuts Hestia's mouth in an instant, prompting her best friend to give her a frown, wondering what she did to the Crown Prince. Hes looks as if this is nothing new for her. Hylli then begins hurling rocks in all directions, with one hitting Hestia's head, causing her to scream. Shu has no option but to come out now, but before she can, Hestia decides to help her and comes out of hiding. She puts on a show as though she was frightened of him, and the prince's blushing indicates that her beauty had won him over. That was fast! After he inquires as to whether she was injured, our lovely girl assures him that she's alright, and abruptly goes away, preventing Hylli from even getting a chance to ask her name. He puts on an act of a young man head over heels for Hestia, and Shu can hardly stand how cringeworthy he sounds as he describes his emotions in, fascinating, romantic, dramatic dialogues. This prince cracks me up. He's so innocent and cute. But his mini-show comes to a halt the moment Shu's transmitter gives a message that the recording is complete. She actually puts it in her pocket to repair when she can, but she has no idea it was recording until the embarrassed Crown Prince spots her. She runs to her dorm room yet again, convinced that she's about to be expelled from school. Suddenly, it dawns on her. She knows the Crown Prince's weakness and can use it to her advantage. Is he the male lead? One thing is for sure, those two adorable little ones will become frenemies. The following day, they come face to face again in swordsmanship class, and Shu smirks as she pokes fun at Hylli's one-of-a-kind dramatic confession from the day before, making the prince feel ashamed. That face of regret. Shu further humiliates Hylli by playing one of the recordings, which causes him to freak out. He then grabs the transmitter and begins to destroy it with his sword. However, he finally gives up when Shu shows that she has made multiple copies of it. He is now very frustrated that she's taking advantage of his weakness, so Shu stops making fun of him and starts negotiating seriously. Firstly, she mentions that in order to thrive in the real world, one must have connections. Since the First Order of Imperial Knights does not have any female knights, she fears that she may be rejected and instead sent to the Second Order, regardless of her competence. When Hylli starts to think that it could be true, Shu goes all dramatic and demands that the Crown Prince become her connection. Not like a backer, but simply to ensure that he will prohibit any unfair behavior when the time comes. Hylli smirks at how confident she sounds about being assigned to the First Order, prompting Shu to flash him a proud look, declaring that she may not be powerful enough now, but she is confident that she will be by the time they graduate. Hylli likes her confidence, so he accepts, and they shake hands to seal their agreement that in exchange for becoming her connection, she will destroy all recordings. Following this, Hylli sheepishly requests another condition. this time that Shu help him in becoming closer to Hestia, a request that she instantly declines. This cutie crown prince then tries to negotiate and promises to make sure she really gets into the First Order, which our girl happily accepts. Look how the tables have flipped! Meanwhile, a blonde, charming boy with glasses looks through the month's magic magazine and reads an article about Schneeballin, aka our ginger girlie. As he frowns, since they don't publish any photos of her, his gaze is captivated by the sight of pretty bestie Hestia as she wanders down the hall. Then he notices a guy approach her and asks if Hestia has seen his love letter, to which she casually and innocently responds that she did not read it on purpose, because she has rejected him. So savage! She then smiles and declares that her ideal person is someone like Shushu, which intrigues the blondie. Shu is blissfully doodling throughout class because her mind is at ease after dealing with Hylli. In the novel, Hylli is meant to fall in love at first sight with Hestia after they graduate from junior class, but it has already happened and he is not responding aggressively. So Shu speculates that it is because they meet when they are still young. It reminds me of those innocent high school crush feels. Hestia and Shu are about to go for lunch when Hylli interrupts them, stating that he has to speak with Shu for a moment. This prompts Hestia to wonder if she isn't included in their conversation, causing this boy to flush and claim she isn't, missing his golden opportunity with her. Hylli is still charmed with Hestia's beauty as she walks away, and Shu, who's been watching him, thinks his crazy side hasn't fully surfaced just yet. He looks so cute though. Shu then wakes him up from swooning over Hestia and asks what he wants to talk about. Hylli appears to be upset that she used magic to boost herself while debuffing him from their sparring yesterday. But he acknowledges that he has never seen magic as irregular as hers, which is why he was unable to counter her properly. His disheartened expression reminds Shu of her brother from her past life. So she cheers him up and compliments him on how, despite being already competent, he knows how to reflect on his mistakes. This does the trick, and he's back to being proud of himself in no time. Shu then suggests that Hylli help her gain strength and stamina while she helps him fight unethical tactics, which he gladly accepts. The next day, Hylli proudly presents her with a list of physical training, including 1,000 push-ups, 5,000 sit-ups, and other superhuman exercises, which she believes are intended to punish her. However, Hylli returns that question to her because it looks at the list of training she gave him of enduring 200 magical enhanced punches, 200 beatings, and so on is all to bully him, which makes our girl smile and scratch her head. Shu enters her dorm room looking exhausted, as if she just came back from battle, which makes Hazel concerned about her. But Shu manages to claim she's alright before collapsing on the floor. The prince really shows no mercy. Thank goodness she was able to take a shower, cause good hygiene is a must. Despite her feelings of being an annoyance to Hazel, her senior persists in helping her dry her hair and instructing her to sit quietly, which Shu has no choice but to comply with. While applying ointment to her injured hands, Hazel complains about her overdoing the sparring exercise and changes her mind about the Crown Prince, claiming that he is too hard on her little Shushu. Shu simply listens to Hazel's concerns and is convinced that she is a good person because she treats her well, despite the fact that they have only recently met. That night, Shu gives the sleeping Hazel a really sweet smile, and she secretly thanks her for all the help she gives, while claiming that having Hazel as her roommate is the best thing that has happened to her since she started attending the academy. Aw, Sister Hazel is the best! Just as Shu is about to drift off to sleep, she is startled to see Hestia sneaking into her room. She appears frightened as she climbs into Shu's bed and tells her about her nightmare, in which Shu was laughing and surrounded by many, yet she ignored Hestia's calls for her. Hestia begins to cry, fearing that without Shu, she would be alone, which leads Shushu to feel guilty for being so preoccupied with her sparring practice that she hasn't paid much attention to her bestie, who is actually struggling to adjust to her new environment and dorm life. Hestia snuggles closer to Shu, wishing they would never grow up so she may continue to act like a carefree child around her. Hestia is aware that she's acting immaturely right now, yet she begs Shu to understand her, while Shu looks at her worriedly. Eventually, the two of them fall asleep while they hold hands. Never forget your besties, everyone. The next day, Shu proudly shows off her biceps and triceps to Hestia, unconcerned that the others are laughing at her as long as she can make her bestie laugh so hard. After that, Hestia sends Shu off, concerned that she'll be late for practice. But before she departs, she gives her the grape-flavored ice cream she's been craving to cheer her up. As they say their farewells, Hestia worries about what will happen if Shu really leaves her behind. You just have to run with her and grow alongside your bestie. Looking in the mirror, Shu recognizes her toned body, and though she dislikes the Crown Prince training course, she continues to see positive outcomes and believes she is really learning something from him. She's waiting on a bench for the Crown Prince when the traffic lights trio appear, talking to each other and assuming they're the only ones around, so the yellow-haired guy says he wants to try something he learned in magic class. A gas that can amplify fire magic is inside your body, and he means their fart. They giggle like middle schoolers and laugh loudly as they accomplish it, while Shu watches them with disgust. The Crown Prince then sits next to her, recording the trio's activities, and questions if she felt this disgusted when she saw him doing a romantic, cringy scene, which she confirms. But he is relieved that she destroyed the recording as promised. But her silence raises doubt in him, and he realizes that Shu hasn't deleted it yet because their contract hasn't been completed. They are fun together! That night, Hylli checks his battered body in the mirror and believes Shu is really taking pleasure in giving him a good beating. Thinking about how much he was bullied by our girl annoys him, but he can't deny that she is good at magic, making him sigh and wish she had majored in magic so he wouldn't be feeling so harassed now. He then plops on his bed and recalls that Shu gives casual compliments, making her a good training partner, and there are even times when she treats him like a little brother. For some reason, he doesn't mind it and even smiles at the very thought. I see, their dynamic seems to be more sibling-like than anything else. But his thoughts are interrupted by his roommate Corey, who is curious about what makes him smile. Then Corey asks the Crown Prince if he knows anything about a youngster named Shushu. Though he doubts it's Shuliana's nickname, Hylli chooses to tell Corey that he doesn't know. The next day, Shushu is persuading Hestia to join her Magic Circle Control Club, but she hesitates because she honestly cannot do magic. Hestia apologizes and departs, while Shu is contemplating her potential recruits, when Corey appears and asks if there's a student named Shushu in her class. Shu is examining Corey's appearance, and she finds his gaze strong and somewhat frightening, but handsome. She becomes suspicious of him and asks for his identification and the reason he's looking for Shushu, but he simply claims that he's curious about his appearance. Before leaving, he asks her to deliver a message to Shushu stating that Corey Dubois has been looking for him. Oh, he thinks our Shu is a boy! His name makes her gasp, and she identifies him as one of the male leads. He is the heir to the powerful Dubois Marquess family, and one of the main characters who loves Hestia. In the novel, even though he seems uninterested in her because he's so absorbed in learning magic, he really cares about Hestia the most. Abruptly, she calls him and confesses that she is actually Shushu, leading Corey to scratch his head because he thought she'd be a boy due to the nickname. After she introduces herself as Shuliana West, she asks what he needs from her, but it appears that he was merely curious who she is since Hestia had mentioned that Shushu is her type. Shushu pauses for a while, remembering how Hestia was so attached to her when they were younger, but she can't believe she's going around talking about it at school. She then comes to the realization that Hestia and Corey have already met early, just like with the Crown Prince. She is still thinking about the novel when Corey interrupts her to tell her that he's leaving. She thinks that the novel might happen before they graduate, but she turns her focus to her recruitment paper as she needs at least one person to start the club, but everyone she knows is already in good clubs. Then she realizes that Corey Dubois could be someone, so she hurriedly exits the room to go after him, recalling that he is an outstanding magician in the novel. Since the club is dedicated to magic, she is sure that he will gladly join when she convinces him to do so. She grins and calls him over, acting all friendly as she shows him the recruitment paper and strongly asks if he wants to join her newly formed Magic Circle Control Club. She adds that this club will study magic circle manipulation using magical theories and formulas. Though intriguing, Corey wants to join a large group because a small club requires more work. He constantly says the same thing when she begs, when suddenly a teacher goes by and orders Corey to stop bullying her, even though he's not. Shu asks him if he's constantly misunderstood due to his tough appearance and asks him to smile for her, but he warns her she'll regret it. Shu flinches at his evil smile, and now she understands why people misinterpret him. She gasps for air from the dread she felt and frankly asks him if he doesn't have any friends, which brings a pitiful expression to his face. I feel like he's a softie. Once Shu figures out that Corey is that awkward guy, she manages to get him to join her club. They are then given a cozy club room, and her only problem is that their club will be dissolved if they do not do well, so they must come up with some sort of project. But it appears that Corey will be of no help because all he comes with is a box full of snacks and his blanket. After that, he hits the couch for a quick nap, which is fine with Shu. But then he gets a startled realization. With club activities every 2 days, he'll have more time to relax. This makes him happy, but our girl gets the chills just looking at his smiling face. He then gets to his feet and tells Shu she should stop being so polite and start calling him by his name, like any good friend would. However, given their social class differences, Shu simply lacks the courage to do it, forcing Cory to put a biscuit in her mouth and shoot more treats every time she refuses. His expression is pure evil, as he swears that he's fine with doing snack attacks all day long until she calls him Cory. How do you win a friend? Feed them sweets. He really wants a friend, cutie. Following that, the two have a great time together conducting magic experiments. Their magic lessons have begun, and Shu, who is clearly uninterested in the subject, can't help but notice how lovely Hestia's voice is. She then sees Hylli and Cory with their class outside the room, waiting for them to finish, which makes her even more frustrated. And all she wants is for their teachers to finish their lesson. But things take a shocking turn when Shu's teacher notices that she's only fake singing and demands that she sing the whole verse, or else she'll not dismiss the class. With no other option, our girl clears her throat and begins singing with confidence, and everyone around her is blown away by her performance. They are all suppressing their laughs. As a proud girlie who doesn't care about what others think, she starts singing her heart out, and everyone, including Cory and Hylli, can't help but lose it, laughing and crying at how terrible she is. On the inside, poor Shushu is crying, but hey, at least she has Hestia, who compliments her voice. I love how the setting looks like your normal high school. She became a campus celebrity the moment she let out her golden voice. Now, whether she's in class, at recess, or even in training with Hylli, no one can help but make fun of her, and she can only hope time passes quickly. She then enters her club room, confused as to why Cory is curled up under his pink strawberry blanket. She notices an already prepared snack on the table and reads the note Cory wrote for her, which she finds sweet until she realizes that all of the snacks are excellent for her throat. She furiously takes his blanket, and there's our sweet boy trying his hardest not to burst into laughter. Sorry, Shushu, but you will go down in the school history books. Cory has been looking for Shu for days, just so he could give her treats. Today, Hestia notices that Cory hasn't appeared yet, which surprises Shu because Hestia used to be afraid of him. But it appears that she isn't nowadays because he seems friendly around Shu and even gives her sweets. Right? He is such a sweet boy. Speaking of Cory, he shows up, which makes Hestia stand up, and he then gladly offers her a snack, all the while Shu watches the chemistry between them. Shu and Cory are now back in their club room, and after learning that they would be making magical tools to present to the school, Cory becomes excited and eager to help Shu with everything. He is so impressed by Shu's talent to modify magic circle formulas, and while he gushes about it, Shu can't help but change her opinion of him. Cory is a kind guy who is brilliant at magic but humble enough to learn, leading her to conclude that he is a far better fit for Hestia than Hylli. So she straight up asks him whether he likes Hestia, prompting Cory to reveal that the reason he can't keep his gaze away from her at first is that her appearance matches his taste. And by taste, he means that Hestia resembles a cute candy. His answer is so vague that Shu makes a troubled face, which Cory catches and causes him to casually clarify that he does not go looking for her to visit Hestia while smiling and drinking his tea. My guy got some riz! His explanation surprises Shu, so to avoid being awkward, she jokingly responds that she knows he looks for her since he has no friends, making Cory angrily blush, which no longer makes her shudder in fear. Instead, she finds Cory cute. They are so cute. I'm betting on these two. Shu is experiencing another dream in which she sees her past life as a loving sister to her two younger siblings and bickers with her other little brother, Han Se-yu. It was just a usual happy day until she received a call in the middle of the night informing her that their parents had been involved in an accident, causing her to wake up crying. That morning, Hestia looks concerned at Shushu because she barely ate her lunch, to which Shushu just responds that it was due to a lack of sleep. Her dreams lately have been very clear. It's lovely when she has dreams when she's just watching her past self read the novel. But she dislikes it when she has dreams about her awful memories because they feel so real that it makes her heart ache anew. During club time, Cory shows Shu what he has learned from the theories she taught him on how to modify formulas on the magic circle, impressing our girl. He combined the magic circles and it worked, prompting Shu to commend him on his quick learning ability. He returns the compliment and expresses his gratitude for her lessons, which makes him question why she chose swordsmanship since she is so good at magic. And you already know the answer. Imperial Knights earn more than Imperial Magicians. His questioning does not end there. He wants to know why she goes to such lengths for money since her family isn't exactly poor, which baffles Shu because no one has ever questioned her this deeply before. That's when you can tell he really cares. If she's honest, it's because she doesn't want her past life to repeat itself. She used to live a life of comfort, but after her parents passed away in a car accident, only misfortune followed her. Aside from inheriting the family's riches, she also took on her father's business debt, forcing her and her 3 siblings to live in a room in the basement. Oh, that explains why she sounds so desperate for money. She understands how difficult it is to struggle for money, so even if she's unaware that her parents will soon become bankrupt, she will still do whatever she can to safeguard her future because misfortunes happen unexpectedly. After remembering her siblings and realizing how much she misses them, Shu begins to sob, which Cory notices and apologizes for his careless questioning. He is so worried that he decides to use magic to compel her to sleep, wrapping her in his strawberry blanket and placing her in his sleeping spot. Surprisingly, Shu lets her guard down when Cory gently pats her head and softly urges her to sleep till she feels better. Sweeter than his candies. She appreciates his caring nature and loves the pleasant aroma of his blanket. He is certainly the main lead, right? Today, Shu develops an earring that helps in mana control to give Cory as a token of appreciation for his cooperation with their club activities, and for being so kind to her. She smiles as she thinks about it, hoping Cory will like her small gift. Aw, go date already! While things are becoming fluffy with Cory, the charming crown prince is grinning evilly because he has planned a new tough training course for Shu as payback for Shu's impulsive attacks on him when she is down. Cory puts her at ease, but Hylli serves as her stress reliever. Cory enters the club room and is shocked to see that their project is almost finished. But upon closer inspection, the small mountain model resembles the mountain near the academy, the Ogron Mountain, which Shu confirms. This reminds him of the swordsmanship major's final exam on that mountain, which surprised Shu that Cory knew it, but then learns that magic majors will also participate on the test. The model appears to be relevant to their exam, but Shu intends to explain everything to him after the test, which Cory accepts. Shu likes how Cory never presses for answers, and even now when he does, everything is floating just because she once told him not to mess with their sofa. He is so considerate. She then hands him her gift and Cory examines the earring, but when he notices something on it, he crashes to the floor and asks Shu where she bought it. Shu honestly claims that she made it for him, causing the guy to scream and want to confirm that the symbol etched on it is her own. The dollar sign makes perfect sense considering her love for money. Cory then slyly asks her if she is schneeballing, and shows her the article and enthusiastically flails his hands, raving about how amazing her items are. She's already been busted, so she has no choice but to admit that she's schneeballing, and urges him to keep it a secret. Cory nervously shakes her hand before abruptly storming out of the room, shrieking with joy. A true fan indeed. He goes back to thank Shu after he's calmed down, but the earring is bleeding heavily now, so it seems like he pierced it by force. I can't with him! He is so cute! Hestia tells Shu the following day that Cory is popular on campus because of his handsome appearance, illustrious family lineage, and exceptional talents. But when the semester began, the Crown Prince's arrival caused a split in popularity. It amazes Shu that Cory, an introvert, is liked by many. They are now on the Ogron Mountain for the practical test, and Shu is giving Cory a piercing stare, branding him a traitor in her mind because she hadn't considered that he wasn't a loner like her. Still, after giving him some decent scrutiny, she sees how sparkling he is and confirms that he is indeed a male lead. Eventually, Cory asks Shu why she can't stop staring, so Shu nonchalantly replies that she recently noticed how handsome he is, prompting Cory to flush so hard that he turns away and begs her not to say such things while he's already doing his hardest to remain composed around her, his idol. Shu regains her confidence when she realizes that this male lead is a fan of hers, and she begins to tease him until Hylli appears between them. The professor then announces that their exam will be marked based on the number of slime nuclei collected. While the lecturer continues to go over the guidelines, Hylli questions Cory about the absence of magic major students, and learns that this is an elective test for them, with those who do not specialize in offensive magic opting out. While this answers Hylli's curiosity over Swan Hayden's absence, Cory points out that the boy didn't enroll and is currently studying abroad. While listening to them, Shu recognizes Swan Hayden's name and remembers that he's that grouchy white-haired boy she knows. She's surprised that the boys also know him. Shu is surprised when Hylli asks about her relationship with Swan Hayden, because he has heard the Blanche and West families are close, to which she replies with no enthusiasm that it is solely due to their family's businesses and has nothing to do with her. When they were younger, she recalls Swan visiting them at home with his father, and when the adults were at work, he would also visit their drill hall, so she would frequently run into him while training. She noticed that Swan always looked cold and wore a long-sleeved turtleneck that covered his entire torso. However, when she caught a glimpse of his arms, the severity of his injury surprised her. So this guy has a horrible past, has he? Shu may not know much else about Swan, but she is quite aware of his terrible personality. She begins to sulk, recalling Swan's temperament and the frequent rejection she experienced whenever she attempted to initiate a conversation, while he always pretended to listen to Hestia when she attempted to talk with him. This saddened Shu, but she immediately moved on, considering Swan is one of the male leads. She feels it's best that they're not close, since none of the male leads are normal anyway, but she quickly dismisses the idea and believes that there's a chance Swan is a normal guy just like Hylli and Keurigord are now. Hylli then spots Shu staring and confronts her about growing feelings for him, leading her to make a disgusted frown and realize that their crazy colors may not fully emerge just yet because they're still young. The prince is so cocky! The first stage of the exam begins and everyone is running around, except Shu, who believes that one should work smart. Plus, she has reliable members with her, so she is confident that they will complete the test with no sweat. Then she secretly celebrates her guaranteed scholarship and the club's funds. So her plan begins immediately. First, she directs Keurigord to light the slimes on fire, once she has gathered them in one location. Next, she instructs Hylli to look for the slime boss and capture it alive, which confuses him, yet he still follows her instructions. So Hylli sets out to find the boss, while Shu assures him that they will capture his fair share of slime. She then begins to make a magic circle on the ground and use illusion magic, causing the slime to show up in large quantities, freaking Keurigord out. She reveals that the illusion magic circle she made makes the slime smell a scent they like, making this fan of hers blush in awe. Keurigord then steps up as he sees the slimes piling up and starts cooking them with his blue flames, which amazes her with its power. Keurigord gives her a brief glance and immediately places her in a water barrier, claiming that the place is too hot, making her blush and admire his attentiveness. This guy is greener than the entire Ogren forest. When they're finished, they divide the slime nuclei among the three of them and believe that they'll definitely get good grades for this. And because they still have time, she shows Keurigord her Pokeball, explaining that it is a monster-catching ball and demonstrating how to use it. She really said, "Slime, I choose you!" Keurigord is amazed as he sees the slime inside the ball and asks if she may give him one because it bears her Schneeball and $sign. Following that, the two proceed to where Hylli is. Hylli abruptly stops Keurigord and Shu from approaching him and gestures towards the Pokeball Shu is holding. The Crown Prince was traumatized! This, however, just serves to heighten Shu's itch to hurl the Pokeball. She does so while smiling evilly, making Hylli wince and close his eyes in anticipation. He then becomes embarrassed when Shu actually shoots it at the slime boss he beat, which sparks their never-ending arguing, with Keurigord throwing fuel to the fire by stating that they are close. In spite of their quick denial, Keurigord can tell they're close by their smug and bickering expressions. Ooh, someone is jealous. Shu obtained the scholarship she had hoped for after the final exams, and she is now filled with joy and pride. Brains and humor. Yeah, totally deserved it, girlie. They get to go home for the holidays after final exams, and Hestia is overjoyed to have more time to spend with Shu during their break. Hestia asks Shu to help her pack, but Shu hesitates for a while because she wants Hestia to stop being so dependent on her. However, Shu realizes that she only has herself to blame because she spoiled Hestia too much since she reminds her of her siblings from her previous life. Shu then grabs Hestia and firmly tells her that she should start packing her own things and being independent because they will soon be pursuing different life paths, so she should learn to look after herself. Shu then waves goodbye and heads to the club room, leaving Hestia alone there, looking dejected. Hes is beginning to scare me a little. Shu and Keurigord are now observing the slimes they collected and putting them into the mountain model they created. Their goal is to study monster behavior in real time, and she is overjoyed that they have finally completed their project report. Keurigord then notes that the teacher in charge of the clubs is interested in their project and expects that they will place high in the club rankings next semester. It's fantastic news, but what draws Shu's attention is that Keurigord only joined her club because she was persistent, so she is concerned about whether he will stay next semester. Of course he will, he's your fan! The following day at lunchtime, Hylli urges Cory to wake up and go eat lunch, grabbing him while feeling frustrated at how sluggish he is. He also mentions Shu's recent lack of enthusiasm for their training and blames Cory for influencing her. After hearing Shu's name, Cory snaps out of his doze, apologizes to Hylli by giving him some sweets for not being able to eat lunch with him today, and then rushes to the club room. Getting close to the grumpy crown prince is something Cory never expected to happen, and he starts to wonder how it all started. Then he realizes that he is usually in the middle of Hylli and Shu's arguments, which causes him to chuckle and thank Shu for bringing him a new friend. Upon entering the club room, he notices Shu peacefully sleeping on the couch. Intrigued, he crouches down to get a better look at her face, all the while wondering why he isn't as enamored with Hestia's beauty as everyone else. He finds himself fixated on Shu and begins to question whether he has developed an addiction to her face. That's a low-key confession. After staring for I don't know how long, Cory can't help but think Shu is pretty, so he ends up braiding her hair while Shu wakes up confused as to what happened to her hair, braided in different directions. Her looks make her feel stupid and ugly, prompting Cory to panic and immediately remove all of the braids. After he's done, Shu looks at her reflection in the window half asleep and turns to Cory, stating that her curls still make her look ugly, which in reality is incredibly beautiful and makes Cory's heart skip a beat. He gives her a warm smile and gently remarks how cute she looks, causing Shu to finally snap out of her slumber and begin to blush. Cory then puts a clip-on orange-shaped earring on her ear to express his gratitude for the earring she gave him, and it is also proof that he will remain in her club. After that, he bows to his club head and smiles at her with the most adorable look imaginable, which makes Shu turn around in fear that Cory may overhear her heart about to explode. They make each other's heart race, which means the ship is sailing, right? Right? While she's still calming down, Cory invites her to lunch with him, which Shu declines, but this guy isn't backing down, especially since Hylli blames him for making Shu exhausted. He uses his magic to lift her to the canteen, but when her transmitter rings, she decides to take a call and then follow Cory later. After Cory leaves, she answers the call and starts to panic when the caller is Carl, who quickly relays the message that someone respectable wants to meet with her. Today is the first day of their vacation, so the two boys are saying farewell to Shu. It seems like these three are truly becoming close friends because they have plans to go on a food trip together during the break, I believe. The Crown Prince goes first, followed by Shu, as Cory claims he will meet someone on campus first. Inside the carriage are now Shu, Hestia, and her older brother, Harun, who is complaining about how Shu has never paid him a visit. Oh, I nearly forgot about this simp brother of hers! Harun wants to hug her, but Shu won't let him, making him pout since he'll miss being able to hold her when she gets married. Shu firmly clarifies that she has no intention of getting married and instead plans to live alone. Even in her past life, she has never had a lover as well. Probably because she was too preoccupied with making ends meet, but fear not, my darling, you have 4 male leads to choose from. Anyway, best boy Cory, who is still on campus, enters a room where a ginger, long-haired guy waits for him. He is Evanus Lunasha, a third-year student and the son of the Lunasha merchant group's leader. In accordance with their agreement, Cory then trades the magic stones he bought for the Schneeballen item he requested from Evanus. Evanus hands him a small box, cheerfully revealing that he barely got it at auction after a long and tough search. He attempts to tell Cory more, but Cory remembers how much he got deceived into buying more items before, and he knows how much of a businessman Evanus is, so he decides to leave. As Cory leaves, his upbeat demeanor turns icy, and he plops into the chair, intending to say that Cory might get the chance to meet his idol Schneeballen, but he smirks, believing that Cory may already know who the mysterious lady is. Whoa, his dark eyes truly give off that wicked vibe. As soon as Shu and Harun exit the carriage, their attendants cheerfully greet them, and their adorable young brother rushes to hug Shu. Harun also waits for a hug from Kareem, but this kid knows how to play with his brother's feelings and bluntly refuses. But Harun is overjoyed when he receives a hug from their granny servant, Lida. But it appears that this grandma has confused him for Shushu. I cannot with them. Let me give you a hug, Harun. They are now eating supper, and both of their parents are delighted to hear their stories, so Shu can't help but smile at how comfortable her life is compared to her previous life. After that, she takes a careful look at her beautiful mother and notices that she's glittering today, complete with a new elegant dress and jewels. This means her mother went on a shopping spree, wasting their money, prompting Shu to shoot her a disapproving look that causes her mother to shudder. She got her looks from her mother, though. They're both so pretty. But she lets out a deep breath and decides to let her mother off the hook for now. She figures that they probably went above and beyond for today, so she doesn't want to ruin their spirits. Lita then serves Shu the apple pie she wanted, but the first slice causes her to nearly choke. Granny should just knit for her masters. That night, her maid Emily is giggling after learning that Lita mistakenly used sugar for salt, which is why the pie isn't edible. While Emily massages her legs, she understands that Shu is the reason Lita hasn't been dismissed yet. No matter how bad their financial situation is, Shu could never terminate her as she is their family's longest-serving employee and understands that no one would hire someone her age. Shu then asks Emily if her mother has been spending too much money lately, which causes Emily to feel uneasy and say she has no authority to tell her. So Shu decides to simply ask her little CCTV, Kareem. She enters Kareem's room and requests a report on their mother's spending, prompting Kareem to flinch, sob, and apologize before disclosing the information. Shu enters her room, shaking in anger because the various invoices she is holding are all the receipts for the items her mother purchased. She throws it in the air, enraged that their debt has increased. Mom is really wasting money, oh my! She has no choice but to work twice as hard as Schneeballen, so she checks through her messages and sees Carl's message regarding the Lunasha merchant group, who want to meet her, which makes her grin because they are a big shot, which means big income for our girl. The next morning, Shu brings all of the receipts to her mother and is aware that she used their emergency savings despite her clear orders not to touch them. Her mother sobs as she asks for forgiveness and admits that she was so down when she and Haroon left that she went shopping to cope. After that, she acknowledges that she's a bad mother, making Shu almost fall for it, but not today, Mom, not today. Shu is lucky that her mom truly cherishes her children, so she aims to use her mother's maternal love as her weapon. First, she breaks down in tears, making it seem like she questions her mom's love for her because she continues to do things that could lead to her being sold, prompting her mother to stand up and believe she's speaking nonsense. Her mother is clueless about the consequences of her spending, so Shu takes the chance to remind her that the ladies of a poor household will be sold as brides to wealthy families. Her acting is so spot on that her mom now looks like she just saw a ghost and is now promising to never let it happen. At least her mom is a good person. Shu then gives her a hug, exaggerating how she does not want to starve or be kicked out, before immediately changing her tone and ordering her mother to refund everything she purchased, which her mother can only comply with. She played with her mom's heart. Sorry, Mom, but we need to save. Now that's done, it's time for Schneeballen to make some money. She has transformed into her Schneeballen disguise and is led to a room within the headquarters of the Empire's best merchant group, Lunasha. While she waits uncomfortably in the room, the thought of the ka-ching money she will receive upon completing her client's request fills her with excitement. Suddenly, the room starts to grow increasingly hot and she starts sweating heavily under her hood. Despite this, she stays cool and patiently waits for her client. But after what seems like hours, no one shows up. Shu can't take the heat anymore and chooses to remove her hood, which turns out to be Evanis's cue to bang his way into the room. Shu, taken aback, believes this person has planned it all along. Shu has done an excellent job concealing her Schneeballen identity for so long, so being discovered so quickly is very distressing. Evanis then sits down, introducing himself as a representative of their organization, and Shu instantly recognizes him as one of the male leads. She can see from his gaze that this guy is far more dangerous than the other male leads, so she intends to immediately complete his request and leave. Evanis finds her bluntness amusing, so he gives her the contract, implying that his request is something serious, which Shu isn't interested in. But after some convincing, she agrees to read it carefully. Her eyes widen as she realizes how beneficial the terms are. The contract states that, in addition to 1,000 golds for signing it, she will receive hundreds of golds per request, which will make her really rich, just as she dreams. However, Shu declines the offer because it is too out of the ordinary for her, and she would have to return to the academy after break. So she stands up and is about to go when Evanis closes the door. She turns to face him and notices that he's not wearing his typical optimistic expression, but rather an intimidating one. Shu freaks out when she finally meets a male lead who, like in the novel, is a true lunatic. She needs to escape immediately, but she remembers she didn't have any Pokeballs, so she plans to use her camcorder to blind him so she can use that chance to escape. However, Evanis uses his hair stick to break it just in time for her to toss the camcorder at him. Is it just me, or does he look disturbingly gorgeous with his hair down? Please be a good guy. He then touches her hair, smiling as he reveals Schneeballen's real name, Shuliana West. Shu gulps in terror, but composes herself to appear tough in front of Evanis, questioning how he knew her identity, but this guy just gives her a smile. It occurs to her that maybe she did something wrong with the organization, but she decides to ponder about it later and concentrate on getting out of there right now. She hits him and goes to the door, but it seems like it won't open until it's Evanis. When Shu's anger boils over, she shows her skills by snatching his hair stick, slipping under him to make him fall, and then getting on top of him, pointing the stick at his neck. This man, though, shows no fear and really seems to be enjoying being in their position. Shu quickly assesses her situation. She is confident that Evanis' men will pursue her even if she escapes now, and this senior of hers may broadcast her Schneeballen identity at school, so she cannot help but admit defeat. She then stands up, extends her hand to him, and is now prepared to listen. Shu is surprised that this guy is interested in Hestia, but he becomes fascinated about her, so he runs a background check and discovers that she is Schneeballen. This means Evanis intended to use her to get closer to Hess, which she is seriously avoiding, so she anticipated his plan to remain unchanged, but is taken aback when this charming guy is no longer interested in Hess. He shyly confesses that he is becoming more interested in her, which gives Shu the chills. He then reveals that she disrupted one of his father's businesses, which actually makes Evanis pleased, so as a gift, he intends to give Shu an option. He discloses that the contract his father made will put her in danger, so he tears it and says that after she signs, she will get a tattoo and become a slave for the Lunasha group. He bears a crescent moon on his neck. Does this mean that he is also his father's slave? His father has already set his eyes on her, so if she departs now, she will have troubles. So Evanis suggests that she pretend to enter the contract while working for him. But Shu recalls that Evanis regularly betrays people in the novel. All of a sudden, the pain from his tattoo becomes unbearable, causing him to collapse onto his knees and gasp for air. He then looks so desperate as he begs Shu for help. Based on his tattoo, I am certain his dad is mistreating him. Vacation means going out with your bestie, so Hestia is pleased that Shu made time for her today. And she comments on how everything on the restaurant menu is amazing, despite the fact that they had just strolled into a random place. However, she begins to complain to Shu about how difficult it is to meet her, even though it's their vacation time, and wonders where she's going because she's out all day. Hestia then assumes that Shu is meeting Cory and the Crown Prince without her, but she promptly denies this and clarifies that they have indeed planned to go on a food trip, but it will not happen soon, leaving Hestia to wonder when. However, Shu doesn't respond to her, leaving Hestia disappointed by the lack of attention from the very person who invited her. Hess sounds like a jealous girlfriend here. Shu quickly apologizes, but in reality, she is busy fulfilling Yves' request while closely monitoring her target. Shu actually ended up having a secret agreement with Yves after visiting the merchant group's headquarters. She has accepted that she's already offended Yves' father and the leader of the Lunasha merchant group, so even if she rejects Yves' offer, she is convinced that the leader will ensure that she no longer finds work, or worse, will be assassinated, leaving her with no other option. Furthermore, she cannot ignore Yves' desperation when he pleads with her to save him. The tattoo will pump poison into your body if you reveal the group's secret, so he warns her not to sign anything with Lunasha if she does not want that to happen to her. The situation clarifies that Evanis and the head do not share a traditional father-son relationship. After her mini-date with her bestie, Shu is now on a rooftop with Yves, using her telescope and commenting on how strange it is that their target isn't leaving their office. Yves tells her to keep a watch on the guy because, based on her investigation, he appears to be the most promising. Shu then employs detection magic during her break, stating that she hasn't eaten properly since she had been so preoccupied with tracking their target around. As she eats, she offers Yves a sandwich, but he declines and just compliments her on her exceptional performance in all the tasks he assigns her. She simply states that she's paid to do it, but as she sits beside him, she can't help but notice Yves' real face is expressionless. The more they meet, the less he smiles, and she starts to wonder what kind of life he's been leading and how terrible it is that he's so hell-bent on getting revenge on his father. That said, just a friendly reminder to be kind and check in on those in your life who are always cheerful. They may be carrying a heavy load. Shushu then inquires about Yves' revenge plan, and he sighs as he reveals that he has established a temporary company that sells fake projects. He aims to trick his father into investing all of his money in his fake company, and once he does, he will tie the project to his other criminal actions, which are likely to result in his father's imprisonment. Yves plans to seize everything while his father is in prison, ensuring he has no allies or supporters upon his father's release. Tightening his fist, he promises that his vengeance will begin there. The detecting magic glows, suggesting that their target is in motion. As they watch the target leave the building and make his way to the left slum alley, Shushu gathers all her belongings and is ready to pursue him. But just as she's about to, Yves quickly carries her and steps onto the edge of the building, making her so surprised. He points out that taking the stairs will take them too long, so he instructs her to firmly hold on and leap off the building. Yves lets go of Shu's legs in midair, causing Shu to panic even more, whereas this guy simply rips a magical item, allowing them to float before landing. As they touch the ground, she huffs, and her legs won't stop shaking, so she advises Yves to follow their target on his own. However, he persists in carrying her on his back as they rush through the alley where the man entered, only to realize that he has vanished. However, the sight of 3 women in the neighborhood causes Yves to design a smart scheme in which Shushu pretends to be asleep. He uses his charisma and enticing smile to seek their assistance, which they all find impossible to refuse. He then informs them that his older sister is drunk. Their father had brought the house key and gone somewhere, leaving them unable to go home. He is concerned about leaving his sister on the cold floor, which prompts the ladies to react. Yves continues to tell them that he believes their father went that way and asks if they've seen him. After describing the man to them, one lady claims she saw someone who matched his description enter Yusar's shack, but she's not sure if minors are allowed there. One woman informs him that since he's just looking for his father, there should be no problem. After receiving directions to Yusar's shack, he expresses his gratitude and continues on his way. They both enter Yusar's shack and stumble upon a place that looks like a club. However, because of the immense size of the area, they find it difficult to locate their target. Eventually, Yves locates the man seated in a corner, but there's a large crowd around him, making it difficult to approach without attracting too much attention. Yves believes Shushu should provide a distraction, which initially surprises her. However, the idea of being paid for this duty motivates her to strive for perfection, especially after seeing some girls dance. So she tells Yves that she'll do it, but she asks for extra money, which he readily accepts. She then comes to the center of the stage, telling the ladies that their dance is so boring. So our very confident Shushu grabs everyone's attention and screams that they better make some noise. She removes her cape and begins dancing like a fish, making everyone laugh so hard. Even their target! Not gonna lie, I thought she would start singing again. Well, despite her embarrassment and for the love of money, she continues to dance until everyone follows her lead. And Yves can't help but chuckle. Aw, look at him smiling so genuinely. The entire bar is now dancing the Shushu dance, while our icon here ducks down the bar alleyway in shame. Now that he has all the information he needs, Yves thanks her for her hard work. However, it seems like Shushu is unable to get up after dancing for hours. He carries her through the busy street, and as they go, Shu notices a street vendor selling grilled skewers, so Yves buys her 2, claiming that one would not be enough to fill her tummy. They look cute here, though, but I'm loyal to Cory. Anyway, Shu headlocks him and instructs him to eat, but when he refuses, she throws a tantrum like a child, prompting Yves to set her down, lean closer to her, and take a tiny bite, causing our girl to blush at how smooth he was. Yves? Cory? Yves? Ugh, this is so hard! Thinking about it now, Shu has never seen Yves eat anything other than water or milk, along with the strange powdered medicine he takes regularly every day. Yves then interrupts her thoughts and says that he intended to force her to carry out horrible acts for the sake of his objective. But he has since changed his mind and claims Shu is free to leave. He gives Shushu a sad smile as he realizes that dirty work does not fit her at all, startling her. The next day, as she prepares a drink, she can't help but think of Yves and believes that his character is very different from the novel. Just then, Big Bro Harun arrives with some screen time and snatches Shu's homemade health juice, which, by the way, is a juice that lowers your health because, amusingly, Harun is now trembling and nearly dies from it. Following that, Shushu, disguised as Schneeballen, bursts into Yves' office and proclaims that she will not quit, something he does not expect to hear. Shushu then walks furiously to his desk, realizing that it was him who sent shopping flyers to their house, causing her mother to spend a lot of money on shopping and leaving her with no choice but to work with him, which Yves did not deny and sincerely questions whether she still wants to work with him. After spending time with him, she is certain that Yves is not a bad guy, and no other customer pays as much as he does. So as a lady who values money, she can't let go of him. Yves smiles and lets her be, then proceeds to inform Shushu that his job description today is document sorting. After completing what she was told, our girl collapses to her seat exhausted, while Yves gives her a sandwich before she leaves. She then turns to see what Yves is eating, and there he is again with that powder meal. So she offers him her homemade health drink, hoping that he'll stop consuming weird drugs. Yves responds by clarifying that what he's eating isn't strange, but rather contains painkillers, stress relievers, and nutrients, which irritates Shushu because it plainly isn't a meal but a medicine. She walks away enraged, but pauses when Yves thanks her before gulping the entire bottle. Thankfully, she followed Emily's instructions because all she gets from Avenus is a complaint about how bitter it is and that he did not faint like her brother. After that, they hear a knock from Yves' father's men, which causes Yves to become cold again. However, when the men enter and relay the message that his father needs to see him to discuss work, he returns to his sunshine, cheery demeanor, which amazes Shushu each time. As he passes by her, he instructs her to lock the door and not leave the room until he returns. It's been hours, and the sun's nearly set, but Yves hasn't returned, leaving Shushu so bored that she ends up reading a book on his shelf. But she's taken aback when Yves unexpectedly hugs her, pleading with her to remain still for a while. She complies, but eventually he breaks the embrace and puts on his cheerful face again. He returns to his work and orders Shushu to go, but she can't help but notice his trembling and injured hands, which she assumes he got from his father. Before entering Yves' office today, Shushu takes a deep breath because every time she opens the door, the cheerful Yves greets her with an embrace. This has been going on ever since he went to his father, and since Shushu is aware that he clings to her whenever he's anxious, she chooses to let it slide and push him to go to work. She's so patient with him. He smiles and follows, but this guy can't help but play with Shushu's hair simply because it feels like dog fur, prompting her to start tossing him back and forth. After that, Yves becomes serious and proclaims that they will do an undercover investigation, the last of their work, since, if successful, he will be able to put a stop to his father's wicked doings. I don't know, but every day he gets more likable. Shushu arrives home as Yves instructs and requests that she disguise herself completely as a 10-year-old child. Because it will require a lot of magical power, Yves gives her a magic stone that reminds Shushu of the earring my best boy Corey gave her, which also holds mana. OMG, Corey is in her thoughts! Could this be a sign? Anyway, it's time to transform, so she concentrates on the magic stone and imagines a different look in her head to activate the transformation magic. However, this is her first full transformation, so she's quite anxious. As she opens her eyes, she finds that she has black hair and black eyes, exactly like her past self. Han Ye-an! She is so pretty in every lifetime! She looks in the mirror with a sad expression on her face, but she instantly stops herself from becoming emotional because what matters now is the present, so off she goes. She's now in the city, and she remembers something very important. Today is the day she promised Hylli and Corey to go on a food trip. She finds that they are waiting for her at the park, so she approaches them while disguised and introduces herself as Yan, who works under Shushu. She proceeds by telling them that something important has come up, and Shushu has ordered her to tell them that she can't join them. As Hylli accepts, he looks at her as if to ask if Shushu is overworking her, while Corey grabs Hylli and simply thanks the kid for informing them. Corey then pats her head and smiles at her, warning her not to do anything dangerous before waving goodbye, which makes our Red Riding Hood patootie Ye-an, aka Shushu, smile, who isn't surprised that Corey recognizes her given what a magical genius he is. The fact that he recognized her only increases my desire to cheer for him and our girl. After that, Shushu hurries to the alley where she and Yves are supposed to meet. But before she gets there, a man appears out of nowhere and grabs her. The man in the hood asks if she is a Lunasha guild informant, which Shushu finds weird because even if Yves' plan is leaked, no one should be able to recognize her because this is her first appearance as her past self. So she takes a different approach and begins crying, causing the guy to let go of her while questioning whether she is truly not the Shushu with fluffy dog hair who pushes him to drink a health drink. He takes off his hood, and despite being in a disguise, this guy is obviously Yves based on how he portrays her, which irritates Shushu even more because he tried to frighten her. They are currently in a forest and have ambushed a carriage belonging to the Lunasha Guild. But no matter how hard Yves looks, the document he's looking for isn't inside. As far as Shushu is aware, it is a document with proof of the guild's investment, but it appears to be far worse. It has the record of Lunasha investing in a guild that conducts a slave market. Shushu finds it hard to believe that a large guild like Lunasha would engage in such an act, given that it is the most prohibited crime in the Empire and carries severe punishment. Actually, darling, it appears that your tactician friend, who is now smiling so innocently, is the one who persuaded his own father to invest in it, and it is he who created the fake guild that operates with the slave market, making sure to present his father with enormous benefits, and boom, his father fell for it. This immediately causes Shu to mentally note that she should never be Yves' enemy. After that, she discovers that Yves' father notices that the investment was a trap, and despite not knowing that his own son is behind it, he takes his fury out on him, which explains why Yves has been anxious and injured for the past few days. One thing is certain, his father must have taken the document himself to the villa, so the two resolve to make their way there. But first, Yves pushes the unconscious men out of the carriage one by one. The guys will eventually die after being tortured by his father, so Yves intends to let them go gently. And when he turns to gaze at Shu with empty eyes, he requests that she just enter the carriage, which she has no choice but to do. Shu realizes how horrible the underground world is, and how Yves lives in an entirely different world, so she can only cover her ears while he does his thing outside. Yves' father is clearly evil and must be dealt with quickly, because how could he put his own son through this? They've arrived at the villa, and Shu finds it odd that the guards let two kids in so easily, but Yves ignores her and continues straight to the basement office. When they get to the creepy stairs leading down, Yves gives Shu one final chance to leave, warning her that what she will see will be horrifying. She can tell this guy is concerned about her, but she merely slaps him on the back, telling him that she's a professional, and they continue heading deeper. Shu's eyes widen, and she begins to tremble as she discovers that the place is filled with cages containing children who suffered both mental and physical abuse. Yves explains that this place is actually Lunasha's headquarters, and the villa's primary purpose is to train talented individuals. They will undergo a rigorous test, and those who successfully pass will become members. By test, he means a death match in which everyone must kill each other until only 3 remain. Shu is shocked, and she gasps as she believes Yves must have also gone through the horrific training, which Yves notices, so he smiles and confirms that he did, in fact, grow up here. He was upset that he was forced to consume poisoned food, which is why he couldn't eat well. But before he can say anything else, Shu smacks his mouth to get him to stop. She wonders why he behaves like it wasn't a big deal, leading him to explain that he doesn't want her to be terrified of him because he needed to kill a lot to become a winner of this crappy guild. The thought of it makes Shu clench her teeth, but she tells Yves it's not his fault because he was forced into it by his own father. Then, in a fit of rage, she yells at Yves to never forgive his father and that she's willing to help him get revenge. Her comments strike a chord with Yves, making him smile but also making him sad that he has to put her in such a difficult situation. Shu requests his glasses, and because he feels guilty about making her see anything horrible, she puts a spell on them to make bad things cute. After that, they head to his father's dungeon office, where Yves plans to distract him while Shu searches for the document using her magic. Upon their arrival, Yves' father, who, despite his good looks, I find unattractive, smiles and greets them, inquiring whether they are the new recruits. Yves starts acting like a delighted little boy, and Shu takes the chance to look around. She eventually finds the document in a cabinet using her magic. However, she is taken aback when things for Yves turn ugly, as he is being stomped and kicked, but she obeys Yves' order to keep going. Just as she's about to open the cabinet, she freezes in fear as she feels Yves' dad close behind. She quickly turns around and finds a gigantic teddy bear thanks to her amazing glasses, and even though this man is already aiming a knife at her, all she sees is a glittering card captor wand. But the head of the guild decides Yves needs his attention first, so he swings his wand. No, his knife at him, leading our girl to give him a powerful kick. Sure, you can't be mad at the dad when he looks this cute, but yeah, beat him! That kick knocks out the father, but she freaks out because this was never in their plan. So she rushes to apologize to Yves for making things worse. However, her shock intensifies as she witnesses the towering bear standing up, coughing pink blood, and demanding answers about her sender and purpose. they really made this rated 13. The bear then suddenly rushes towards her, wielding his wand, prompting Shushu to swiftly take out her dagger to defend herself, catching the bear off guard with her impressive swordsmanship. However, the bear grows more and more frustrated and forcefully pushes her aside, resulting in Shushu losing her balance and crashing into the wall of books. Yves desperately pleads with his father to stop his actions after witnessing her fall, but his father coldly tells him to be silent and wait, assuring him that he will tear Shushu apart. Despite Yves' pain, he prepares to attack his father, but Shushu stops him, and with a trembling voice, she assures him that she can handle the situation, fearing that the tattoo's restrictions may cause Yves great harm. She continues to defend herself against the bear, but as it hits, she feels magic rather than human power, so she uses her search magic and discovers that Yves' father has equipped himself with a variety of attack and defense magic tools. Yup, just your normal rich people things. She then considers strengthening her mana and takes the magic item she used for the transformation magic earlier, which still has a small amount of mana. Biting it causes her to glow instantly, which makes her charge the bear fiercely, knowing that she must end it soon before the magic fades. Yves feels helpless as he watches them fight, which brings up a traumatic memory of his own childhood. He then hears the voices of his dead kids pleading with him for help as they fight for survival. However, one boy smiled at Yves, calling him his friend and urging him to just kill him because he was already weak, making Yves shudder just thinking about it. Oh, so this green-haired boy disguise he's using is that friend? Gosh, his past is too dark. Meanwhile, Shushu is greatly concerned since her mana is dwindling, making her unable to battle effectively. The bear takes advantage of the circumstances and tightly restrains her, making it impossible for her to escape. Yves unexpectedly surprises the bear by roaring from behind and hitting him, revealing his actual self and leaving his father absolutely stunned that he lets go of Shushu. Uh-oh, Shu's glasses slip off. Rated 13 no more! His father is enraged because he can't believe his son has betrayed him, while Yves, with tears streaming down his cheeks, declares that he should be grateful to Shushu because, if not for her, he plans to cause his father as much pain as he did. But given their situation, he decides to end it now. Yves then begins mercilessly slashing his father, killing him on the spot, which makes Shu tremble in fear. So he quickly retrieves her magic eyeglasses and urges her to retrieve the document so they can make a swift exit. As he continues speaking, he unexpectedly collapses under her shoulders, causing her to panic. She frantically checks his tattoo, which reveals that the poison is rapidly spreading throughout his body, and knowing that there's no antidote intensifies her fear as she pleads for him to wake up. However, her surprise grows when a pretty white-haired boy suddenly bursts into the room, referring to Yves as an idiot. Swan Hayden it is, without a doubt. The stranger informs Yves that he has been patiently waiting at their meeting spot, yet Yves did not show up. This compels him to make his way there, forcefully slapping Yves' face and urging him to wake up, leaving Shushu perplexed by his behavior. He goes as far as to threaten to leave Yves if he doesn't wake up. Shushu then assesses the stranger's closeness to Yves and decides to maintain her composure. Yet the stranger's appearance triggers a sense of recognition within her. As Yves hears his voice, he grimly informs him that he no longer possesses any antidotes, leading the stranger to coldly advise him to just rest in peace. Well, Yves has no time for a joke right now, so he asks the guy to quickly heal him if he is Swan Hayden, causing Shushu to briefly pause as a memory resurfaces in her mind. This answers why the guy looks so familiar to her, and memories of running into Duke Blanche's son a few times with Hestia when they were younger come rushing back. The Swan she knows rarely spoke and always maintained a cold demeanor, but now he speaks and appears lively, which surprises Shu. She then silently observes as he quickly heals Yves, amazed at how angelic his face remains and how his power instantly removes Yves' poison. This makes her recall that Swan Hayden belongs to the Blanche house, which is renowned for producing white magicians. His healing abilities and angelic face create a remarkable combination that she finds truly impressive. Yves sits up right away, and Swan Hayden quickly gets to his feet, while making sure that Yves will send him the item he promised, which Yves confirms. Swan Hayden then looks over to Yves' father and expresses relief that everything is finally finished now that the leader is no longer alive, indicating his awareness of Yves' situation. Before leaving, Swan Hayden informs Yves that he intends to enroll in the academy as soon as possible since the title succession process at the House of Blanche is coming to a close sooner than expected. He then uses his angelic, gorgeous face to beam at Yves, while threatening him not to acknowledge their friendship while at the academy. and turns to leave, but pauses, staring in Shushu's direction, catching her attention. She returns the gaze, confused by the guy's obvious surprise at seeing her. However, this gets cut off when the sound of approaching men catches their attention, causing them to quickly make their exit with the document. Meanwhile, Swan Hayden is leaving the area, yet he remains curious about Shushu's presence. There's no way he knows her, right? She's in disguise. Anyhow, I'm glad he's not the typical emotionless male lead. The following day, news of the Lunasha Guild leader's death quickly spread, sparking controversy about the royal family's decision to launch an investigation into the guild's illegal activities in the underground world. Shushu hears Emily's news, but she's eager to hear other news than that, so Emily tells her that it's unusual for her to spend days rolling around in bed. Well, after her trip in the traumatic basement, our girl is now twice as exhausted as she was before. However, when Emily reminds her that school will resume soon and advises her that she should reconsider how she spends her vacation, Shushu gets her energy back and asks Emily for assistance in preparing to go out, excited for the prospect of having a good time. Our Shushu refuses to allow her vacation to end without having fun, so she goes out with Hess, treats her adorable marshmallow little brother Karim, goes on her promised food trip with Corey and Hylli, and even takes some time for herself. That is, until big bro Haroon starts bugging her. She goes to visit Yves at his recently purchased building today, and as soon as she enters, a rushing Yves greets her, ready to hug her, prompting her to quickly leave and slam the door. Yves is devastated, but he agrees not to hug her after she threatens not to enter if he does. Cutie. Yves makes a meal for her, and he even eats veggies himself, which surprised Shu because it is the first time she's seen him eat actual food. This makes him reflect, and he realizes that after his father died, he began to feel free, as if the shackles around him had vanished, which could explain why he suddenly regained his appetite. Given all they've gone through together, they both smile at each other, but Shu becomes annoyed shortly after because this guy still can't eat much, so she ends up eating his portion as well. Yves then asks whether he can hug Shu out of the blue, which shocks her to the point that she spits out her juice and states that even though she promised to spend time with him, what he's asking is too much. He seemed to have expected this kind of reaction, leading Shu to suggest that he should get a puppy since he always thinks of her as a squishy, fluffy dog. Besides, she can't just hug him because she might lose her chance to date anyone because of him. But Yves nonchalantly says that she doesn't need to date anyone and reminds her that if she gets married, she will have a lot of restrictions and won't be able to use her talents anymore. She scoffs at him, declaring that she's a competent woman who can take care of herself, prompting him to slam the table and demand that she bring a respectable guy as powerful as a dragon. This guy is incredibly stubborn, and nothing she says would get through to him, so she immediately goes. But she realizes that Yves is similar to her brother, which actually makes her smile. Okay, people, Yves here is a brother figure. Just after that, the new semester has begun, and poor Shushu is teased again by Hylli because she is the only one of the four who has not grown. Corey just smiles while Hess defends her, but Shushu is crying on the inside. Gosh, the main leads are growing so fast. Shu has finished unpacking her stuff at her dorm, and glancing in the mirror reminds her of how much Hess, Corey, and Hylli have grown in just a few months. Can we just admire how mature and attractive they become? As an anxious girl wanting to become taller, she goes to the club room and asks my forever sweet addict Corey what his technique is for gaining so much height. But he has no secret and simply speculates that it could be due to the veggies he ate or a growth spurt. It's not only Corey. She's also questioned Hazel, who suggests she drink milk, Hylli, who believes she just shrinks, and her pretty bestie, who assures her that she's fine just as she is. She also contacted Haroon about how to grow taller, but her older brother refuses to tell her anything unless she comes to see him at the seniors' building. Shushu is really annoyed right now, but desperate times call for desperate measures, so she sneaks inside Haroon's building, using Corey's yellow carrot printed blanket. Hazel, however, notices her right away and squeals, causing the other girls to swarm and admire how adorable Shushu is. They really treat her like a baby. Hazel's clinginess can be quite remarkable, but not until Yves shows up and begins calling her his beloved Shushu, the one person she really wants to avoid. After Hazel and the other girls leave, Shu gives Yves a disgusted look to ensure he does not ask for a hug or anything else, and she insists he take her to her brother. Yves smiles and claims he is her older brother, when the real brother appears and becomes enraged at whatever Yves is doing with his younger sister. Look at that! Haroon is really dashing when he's dead serious. Yves turns to look at Haroon, and being the businessman that he is, seriously asks Haroon to buy his brother's rights, sparking an argument between the two as Shu tries to sneak away. They look more like siblings than Haroon with their matching orange hair, so with that said, could I have Haroon instead? Kidding. That evening inside his dorm room, Yves is laughing so hard as he rewatches the recording of Shu's fish dance, and he realizes how much fun it is to be with her, so he wants to keep her by his side forever. When this guy acts like this, I don't see him as a brother figure, but rather as a potential match for our girl. In any case, since the class has already begun, our Shu has been blessed to have such caring classmates who give her bottles of milk, work together to stretch her body for her, and even the lunch lady gives her a whole bowl. No, not a bowl, but a whole basin of soup that is good for her bones. I love her school. While walking with Hestia, Shu reveals that Hylli is the one who informed everyone to support her in her height struggles, which makes Hes laugh at how caring everyone is about her bestie. Hes resolves to cheer Shu up by swaying her around, but she bumps into someone holding 2 huge boxes. Shu swiftly assists Hestia in standing up, while the person she runs into sounds furious, but to their surprise, the guy is none other than Swan. He pauses, stacking the boxes, and glances up at the 2 ladies. Upon seeing Hestia, he greets her with a smile, but my girl Hes doesn't appear too thrilled to see him. There is definitely beef between the 2. He then walks away, leaving Shu confused as he didn't even greet her, which greatly irritated her. Shu is currently practicing a jumping exercise on the training grounds, but she can't get over the fact that Swan didn't recognize her when the 3 of them were childhood friends. However, she suspects that he simply forgot about her and only remembered Hestia because, after all, she is the novel's female lead, so she chooses to let it go. After that, Hylli, her personal trainer, strikes her in the head because she stops jumping, prompting Shu to question whether doing what he says would actually make her taller, which leads to the 2's usual arguing. I also miss these 2's interactions. They pause as their teacher announces the arrival of a new student in their department, who, to Shu's surprise, is Swan. Blessed with another gorgeous character, which means a new ship is going to sail. Let's go! Swan's entrance creates a buzz among the students as they are aware that Swan is a Blanche, a family renowned for producing white magicians and healers, and they are astonished that someone of his caliber would join the swordsmanship department. However, hearing some girls squealing at Swan causes them to stop overthinking Swan's decision, because they're still having no clue why there are ladies in their department now, whereas Shu simply smiles proudly because it is her decision to join the department that has inspired other girls to follow. She then looks at Hylli and is confused when she discovers the crown prince clutching a tree in the corner. He really does not want to interact with Swan, since the white-haired boy's swordsmanship style irritates him and causes his clothing to shred. He goes on to describe how Swan usually swings his sword wildly and has no concept of how to defend himself, which is why he's so serious about not getting involved with the guy. Speaking of that guy, Swan walks up to them gleefully, twirling his sword and wondering if Hylli is hiding from him when he's overjoyed to meet him. Hylli quickly runs away, so Swan pursues him while continuing to ignore Shu, which irritates her even more because he acts like she does not exist. It has been days, and Shu notices Swan staring at Hes all the time. In the hallway, outside the classroom, and even while they snack in the garden, which leads her to believe that Swan has feelings for Hestia. Today at the field, Shu sees Swan smiling, running away from the traffic light trio because, instead of sparring with them, he slashed their uniforms into a heart shape. Swan then clings to their teacher and claims that the trio is bullying him, which upsets their teacher and prompts him to have a brief conversation with the trio. Now that they've left, there's only Shu and Swan left in the field, which Swan hasn't noticed yet, while Shu glances at him, wondering if he'll still ignore her today. Swan turns around and flinches when he finally sees her, making Shu smirk at what he'll do next. But instead of speaking to her, this guy trembles and runs away. Shu can't believe Swan isn't just avoiding her, but genuinely hating her. My guess is that Swan is secretly in love with our girl and is simply too shy to look at her. During class break, Hestia asks Shu to join her in the store to buy something to drink, and Shu agrees. They stroll down the corridor, Hes giggling as she tells her stories, but she flinches when Shu asks what she thinks about Swan. Hes asks if Shu is interested in the guy, which makes Shu chuckle and reveal that she believes Swan likes her. Hes suddenly gets all serious and furious, telling Shu that she should never like Swan, a statement that leaves Shu confused. What makes Hes so protective, though? This side of her is scary, yet so charming. They're now in the classroom, and Hestia is back to her bubbly self, joking with the other girls and noticing Shu has been staring at her. She turns around and sweetly smiles at her bestie, to which Shu reciprocates. However, our girl still finds Hess's earlier actions strange, as it was the first time she had acted so furious. When she questions the reason, Hess returns to her smiling face and pretends to be innocent. Shu feels exhausted from thinking about Hess and Swan hating, so she gets up and goes to hang out with the boys to make herself feel better. She cheerfully strolls to their classroom and calls for Cory, but she is surprised to see Swan fighting with Hylli. Swan turns serious and attacks our crown prince with flying origamis, causing Hylli to freeze in place until Cory, my guy, sees Shu. When he calls Shu, Swan crashes on the floor, prompting Cory to get Shushu out of the room. After eating the sweets Cory had given her, Shushu's mood improved, prompting her to declare Cory the best because he immediately recognized her need for something sweet. He is, and you, darling, better not change your mind. Outside the classroom, Cory silently requests that Shushu place her hands in his uniform pocket. When she does, she is taken aback to learn that he has used spatial extension magic there. Cory smiles and tells her she may come to him whenever she wants, because he will always provide her with something to eat. Can these two be the endgame, please? While walking around the campus, Shu spots a man sleeping on a bench with his uniform hiding his face. She then notices a magic video recorder and magic stones on his side, which are extremely expensive, and assumes it must be Hylli. She approaches him and removes the uniform covering his face, only to discover that he is not a black-haired crown prince, but Swan, who looks very handsome in his messy hair and tight black suit. However, the furrow in his brow and his intense stare convinced her that she had upset a dangerous beast. Shu promptly apologizes for being rude, which causes Swan to stand up, concerned by her comments, and likely due to his nervousness about our girl, he trips and falls to the floor. That evening, Shushu asks Hess to help her stretch, hoping that it will make her taller. But Hess becomes uneasy after noticing that the lights on the second-floor classroom are turned on, implying that someone is watching them. Shu allows Hess to wait on the side as she performs her final stretches, but she trips and hurts her ankle, prompting Hess to quickly check on her while Swan jumps from the second floor. Oh my, look who's worried now! Shushu is surprised by Swan's unexpected jump from the balcony with a shirt on his head as Hess looks on disapprovingly and quickly goes to get a first aid kit. Swan offers to help with her ankle, pointing towards it, but she politely refuses, doubting his motives towards her. Still, Swan uses his healing power on her, leaving her speechless as she absorbs his healing magic. She is astounded by the incredible effects of Swan Hayden's magic, which not only heals her ankle but also brings a deep sense of relaxation to her entire body, a sensation she finds difficult to believe. Then, much to her surprise, he removes the bandage from his arm, carefully wraps it around her ankle, hands her some healing potions, and quickly stands up as he advises her to be cautious in the future, leaving her speechless as she gazes at the healing potions in her hands. Yup, I am now positive he likes her. Even so, Hess gives him a disgusted look and tells him he's being foolish as he walks past her, while he does the same to her. I am now really curious what happened to them. But anyway, Swanee guy, you have rivals. My pinky girly and my best boy Cory. Shushu is staring inside her room at the magical potions that Swan has given her. She is certain that he is ignoring her because he despises her, but the way he reacted earlier confuses her, and she sighs, unable to determine his thoughts. She then decides to learn how her friends feel about Swan. First, she goes to Hylli, who tells her that Swan is acting strangely because the guy enjoys bullying others, but he has recently been smiling a lot. Hylli then whispers that he notices Swan is keeping an eye on her, so she should be extra cautious. Next, she seeks Cory's advice, and he assures her that she doesn't need to be concerned about Swan while braiding her hair, as he believes Swan is similar to him. Look how they bond! Guys, meet Mom and Dad. She then asks him to elaborate more so she can understand, but he simply smiles and says Swan is unusual, so she should be cautious. She gazes at her reflection in the mirror, content with the way Cory skillfully braided her hair, and ponders how her two friends share the same perspective on Swan. Interestingly, Aveness is quick to suggest that she distance herself from Swan, which surprises her because she has never been close to him. He pats her head and warns her that Swan is dangerous, emphasizing that if he tries to speak to her, she should notify him, which makes her wonder why everyone is warning her in the same way. Yves then expresses concern over Swan Hayden's recent behavior, but before he can finish, Swan enters the room and dismisses his comments as nonsense. The boys then start bickering, and Swan drags Yves out of the room, leading Shushu to conclude that she shouldn't change her views simply because he helped her once, and since Swan dislikes her, she should avoid him. Today, Shushu is shocked when Cory and Hylli tell her she needs to take the Subduing Intermediate Monsters test with Swan Hayden, leaving her to believe that they are establishing a team without her. They chuckle and inform her that they will not be taking the test since Cory has been requested to fix the school's magic equipment, which would count as a perfect score on all of his practical tests. Hylli then gently pats her on the head while smirking, as he informs her that he must leave to take the Empire's official qualifying exam for excellence in swordsmanship, and playfully teases her about their skill differences, eagerly anticipating her reaction. Cory gives a strong warning regarding the next subjugation exam, advising her to consider pairing with Swan Hayden. Hylli also agrees, giving her the impression that they really care about her well-being, so she just assures him that she'll think about it, despite her doubts about partnering with Swan. On the day of the exam, the coordinators reiterate the same rules from last time, but warn them to exercise caution as they face intermediate-level monsters, and they will conduct a head count after the test. They notify everyone that if they finish early, they must return to that location rather than the academy, and the buzzer sounds to indicate the start of the exam. The students then begin to confront the different types of monsters that they encounter. Meanwhile, Shushu is constantly on the move, doing her utmost to battle every monster that crosses her path. She is currently gathering the Shahal core to complete her test requirement, and though feeling tired, she takes pride in completing the exam independently, dismissing Cory and Hylli's excessive concerns. Shushu completes the exam ahead of schedule and chooses to relax by a tree, patiently awaiting the others. However, it appears like she has a fever that is becoming worse, causing her to shiver, and the test has nearly drained her mana. She has concerns about using fire magic to keep warm, fearing that she may unintentionally cause harm to the forest. Suddenly, she hears a piercing scream and rushes to check, only to find that the girls who have recently entered the swordsmanship department are surrounded by monsters. And the worst part is that they're on a cliff. Our girl leaps off and swings her sword, determined to finish the monsters at once with her limited mana, leaving the girls in awe. After defeating the monsters, the girls approach her to express their gratitude, and she instructs them to take the core, prompting the girls to wonder how they may show their gratitude. While engaged in conversation, Shushu unknowingly approaches the edge of the cliff and loses her footing, resulting in an accidental fall. As she falls, her mind is racing with thoughts of her magical abilities, frantically hoping they'll still work, only to be disappointed. She can't believe she'll die like this and regrets not taking Cory and Hylli's advice. However, she suddenly feels someone healing her and awakens to the sound of someone calling her name, only to be surprised to see Swan Hayden in front of her. He looks so scared and worried and cute. The next thing she knows, she is waking up in the school's infirmary, remembering everything from her fall from the cliff, particularly the anxious expression on Swan's face. Let's take a few hours back, shall we? Swan ends up helping her as she tries to walk after she falls from the cliff. Her problem is that she doesn't know where to go, so she has no choice but to shyly ask him if he knows the way, which causes Swan to sigh, but he confirms that he does, so he walks first so Shu can follow. Shu can't believe this guy is mad again after making a worried expression a while ago, making her want to grab him by the collar and demand to know why he keeps avoiding her eyes, and why he always seems to be there when she needs him. She then pauses for a moment to take a breather because her body still hurts from the fall, which Swan notices, but she simply assures him that she's alright. But an experienced healer like Swan can't be fooled, so he leans in to take her temperature and sees that she's burning. His gaze softens again as he says that she should tell him when she's hurt, which she observes, so she takes the chance to start a conversation with him, asking whether he recalls anything from when they were kids, causing Swan to flinch. He looks down and admits that he remembers how close they were back then, and he shyly requests that she not use such formal speech with him because it seems weird, which puzzles her. The mood around them appears pleasant already, so she finally asks what is upsetting her as to why Swan is avoiding her, but he simply looks away and avoids answering her question by continuing to walk, prompting Shu to wonder whether she did something wrong with him or if he simply hates her. Swan is taken aback by this and immediately turns to her, considering that he will never dislike her. Then, all of a sudden, Shu tumbles. Swan rushes to her rescue, but they both crash to the ground with Shu pressing down on him. Swan is very red right now and uneasy, hoping that someone will help him while he picks grass to control himself. That's just really adorable. He then shuts his eyes and asks Shu to stand up since he can't dare push her away. However, Shu runs out of energy and collapses. Back to the present, as soon as she leaves the clinic, she notices Swan sitting in the corner, who immediately embraces her. He breaks down in tears and begs her not to get sick again, proving that they may have been very close before, but now there's an issue. Nothing about it sticks out in her memory. Swan then gives her medications and offers to give her more if they're not enough, all the while maintaining a worried expression and demanding that she avoid feeling sick again. Shu swears and smiles at him, and despite the fact that she has never seen Swan look so vulnerable, it does not feel strange to her at all. This guy is still moping, making her grin, so to reassure him that she is indeed okay, she gives him a surprise hug, which turns Swan red as if he is about to explode, prompting him to run away. He is so shy, such a cutie. So who says Swan is the only one worried about our Shu? As soon as Swan leaves, 3 little troublemakers rush in. Hess, who appears to have been gardening and is now crying as she swings her shovel, Hylli, who is enraged and is now unsheathing his sword, and Corey, who has a menacing gaze as he shows off his power. Shu has her own little army! They calm down when Shu explains that she only had a cold and that Swan had helped her. So she tells him that she's now fine and encourages them all to continue doing what they were doing. However, her friends scold her, and Hylli even uses his authority to order her to return to the infirmary while Hess and Corey hold both of her arms. Anyone looking for Aveness and Big Bro Haroon? Sure, they're frustrated when they get there, but these two are clearly of a different species. Upon noticing that their sister is refusing to rest, they immediately smash the infirmary door in an attempt to get their teacher nurse to let her use the sick bay. Their love for Shu is so funny and adorable. I really love them all. That evening, she receives a call from her loving mother, who is worried sick after learning that she fainted and is upset because Shu did not even call her. Shu promptly apologizes while her mother recounts the time she caused her concern. But what surprises Shu the most is when her mother narrates the time she got lost. From the way Shu reacts, her mom is convinced that Shu still can't remember the day she mysteriously vanished. So she shares that everyone looked for her at the time, but she was nowhere to be seen, until they eventually found her in her room. Oh, the plot thickens. Shu, having slept so late the night before gathering information about her disappearance, is so sleepy the next day that Hess finds herself compelled to drag her away from her table for lunch. However, Shu's hair got caught on Hess's pen, which Shu recognized because Hess had been using it for a long time. Hess appears surprised by what she said, but she smiles and reveals that she gave it to her, which Shu cannot recall. Did someone abduct her and erase her memories when she was young? Shu is currently seated on a tree branch sipping juice just below the training grounds, thinking about the pen she supposedly gave Hestia. The pen bears Shu's initials, indicating that she did indeed gift it to her bestie, but no matter how hard she tries, she can't remember anything about it. However, her thoughts are interrupted when she witnesses Swan sparring with Jimmy, who was the #1 in his class before Swan transferred to their school. This Swan, with his black shirt and body bandages exposed while he effortlessly evades Jimmy's attacks, deserves to be my wallpaper. Swan's apparent boredom enrages Jimmy, prompting him to yell that he must fight him properly. As an obedient classmate, my guy gladly complies, and his gaze suddenly turns bloodthirsty. Swan uses his killer aura to launch an attack after another while playing innocent, prompting Jimmy to immediately kneel down and accept defeat. It appears that these two have a bet, and since Jimmy lost, he wonders what he should do, prompting Swan to bring up the prettiest girl in the class. No, the prettiest in the school, which Jimmy assumes is Hestia. Shu listens as Swan corrects Jimmy, stating that it is the girl who is always next to Hess but is too embarrassed to give her name, causing Jimmy to become annoyed and begin describing Shu as a stinking shorty with orange hair. Uh-oh, it seems like you gave the wrong answer. Based on what you said, Swan is clearly prepared to dispose of you. Thankfully, Jimmy is sharp and begins praising Shu, so Swan stands up and tells him to bring every photo or footage relating to her before he leaves. Meanwhile, Shu, who is witnessing all of this, is in denial and believes they are talking about another girl with orange hair. That afternoon, Shu unexpectedly spots Swan sleeping near the river, and because they've grown close, she approaches him. But even with his coat uniform hiding his face, Shu can tell that he's definitely pretending to be sleeping. This makes Shu want to make fun of him, so she whispers and asks if he likes her. Swan instantly gets to his feet, and the once fierce guy has transformed into a timid red tomato, quivering lips, nearly crying soft boy. The duality! Swan stutters and makes an adorable, strange expression, attempting to confess that she is indeed right. But our so-dense girl here guesses he is angry and is now confident that she is not the orange-haired girl he was referring to earlier. Shu then apologizes, explaining that she is simply playing around to get him awake because she has something to tell him. As she starts to scratch her head, she expresses her gratitude for his help in healing her ankle and rescuing her from the cliff. Since she has begun to be afraid of Swan due to her belief that he hates her, she has neglected to express her thanks properly. At that moment, she notices his hair in disarray and attempts to tidy it for him, which prompts the lover boy to hide his flushed face. While still holding his face, he declares that he isn't some crazy guy and hopes that she won't be too wary of him, and he notes how hard he worked when she wasn't around. Shu, on the other hand, is at a loss for words, because she assumes Swan is referring to something from her lost memory. Swan continues to sulk, arguing that she should praise him for doing his best, prompting Shu to eventually stop him and confess that she has no memories of being close to him. She then assumes that he is aware of the reason behind her memory loss, since, upon investigating, she discovers that the Blanche family not only heals physical injuries, but also has the ability to heal mentally, which suggests that they might be able to manipulate memories as well. Swan gets to his feet, telling Shu he's sorry but he can't tell her anything, and hoping she can simply live in the present, while Shu is no longer able to push on the subject due to his angry expression. Just a few seconds later, Swan is smiling again and hopes that they will become friends again, and he heads back to class first. Swan has returned to his dorm room and recalls yelling at a duke, begging him to save a child, motivating him to swear never to tell Shu anything. I'm not sure what's going on, but I am sure something dark happened when they were younger. Swan is still thinking about it, unaware that his roommate, Yves, is around and enjoys looking at his glum expression. Yves then points to the document on Swan's desk, explaining that it is the favor he has requested in compensation for previously helping him in the basement. Swan, on the other hand, becomes increasingly agitated as he opens whatever document it is, while Yves gladly confirms that it's the images of Shu that he requested. He gushes about how cute its curly orange fur is and reveals that he adopted it since the images are not of Shu we know, but of Yves' adorable orange dog. This guy took Shu's advice to get a dog, and an orange one at that. Swan is now enraged, prompting Yves to escape through their window, but before he does, he suggests Swan quit worrying about Shu. Yves then frankly warns Swan that the Blanche family is known for being heartless, and while Swan appears angelic, he knows he is a mess, so Yves urges him to stay away from Shu. Swan dislikes Yves' close relationship with Shu and claims that he has no right to tell him what to do, prompting Yves to strike a cool pose and proclaim that he is Shu's most amazing and gorgeous older brother. After his awful confession, the room fell into complete silence until Swan smacked him with a book. After fake big bro Yves leaves, Swan sighs and admits that what Yves claimed earlier is true. All of the Blanche family's dukes have gone insane as a result of the severe training required to become heirs. To develop a tremendous healing skill that can even save someone on the verge of death, the family's heir must be tortured nearly every day. Why? So they can push the limits of their natural healing abilities. And because cruelty must be continuous, the heir is left with only resentment and anger. There was a previous case where an heir murdered the previous generation shortly after inheriting the title. A situation Swan understands because no one can ever return to normal after years of suffering. Swan then examines his own bandaged body and believes that he would have done the same thing. But he was fortunate that his father became unstable, enabling him to meet Shu. Yes, it's time for some backstory. 7 years ago, Swan's father, Duke Blanche, spoke to him for the first time and unexpectedly brought him to the West family, Shu's family. His father always leaves him at the West's training area, and their butler will come to pick him up once his father and Baron West have finished their meeting. Young Swan is furious because he can't believe his father will drag him to another house while he's in so much pain. But looking at the vast sky, he realizes that being out in the field is better than being cooped up in a room. As a result, he vents his frustration by striking the wooden dummy as young Shu and Hestia appear. The two girls introduce themselves, but because Swan did not look at them, they decide to play by themselves on the sidelines. Swan glances at them and hates that they're having fun while he is experiencing nothing but suffering. Swan's unstable mentality caused him to lose control of his magic, resulting in his wounds opening and his hand oozing blood. So Shu frantically checks on him, but he only screams and tells her to leave. Okay, not a good encounter, I guess. Grumpy little Swan is forced to accompany his father to the West Manor yet again, and he now finds himself back in the training area, where Shu greets him along with the terrified Hestia. He finds our girl annoying, so every time he visits the manor, he pushes her away. One day, he arrives at the West Manor in terrible pain since his training has become so difficult that he hardly has control over his mana. Shu greets him as usual, but he only hisses at her, so she decides to entertain Hestia by showing the teleportation magic array she created. Swan despises seeing them look so happy while he sits on the bench, trembling as his wounds begin to open up, which Shu discovers when she accidentally teleports near him. She gives him a roll of bandages, but all he says is a threat that he will kill her if she tells anyone about his condition. One night, after cruelly torturing Swan and even praising him for his hard work, the servants left him in his gloomy room, distressed and covered in blood. What even is this family tradition? He's literally just a baby. He's trying to focus on his healing powers, but really, it's a lot for a kid. All he wants is to just vanish, and then out of nowhere, Shu appears after using her teleportation spell incorrectly. She needs to recharge her mana before she can leave, and while she isn't snooping into his drama, she's not one to ignore it either. So she drags him to the bed and forces her way in to change his bandages. Well, as you all know, Swan's scars and wounds are horrible, so Shu can't help but throw up, leading him to offer her a magic stone he created so she can return home. After that night, Shu makes it a routine to teleport to Swan's room and bring him midnight snacks, replace his bandages, and even tuck him into bed. He's becoming used to her presence, so when she arrives one night, he simply shows her his wounds and asks her to wrap them so she can leave. Still grumpy, but we're making progress. So Shu's still kinda struggling with her bandage wrapping skills, but hey, we're making progress too. Shu then pulls out a chessboard, but Swan is confused as to why she continues returning, prompting her to explain that she's bothered that he's locked in a room in pain. She has no idea why he's going through this suffering every day, but she believes that having someone by him will help him feel less sad. Anyway, our smart, brilliant girl loses the game, so she chooses to go home and call him her friend, which Swan refuses. Well, baby boy, playing together and revealing each other's secrets is what it means to be friends. But he denies this because Shu has never shared any secrets. She flashes her charming smile and tells a not-so-secret. But because she assumes he doesn't know, she confesses that she's a girl, prompting him to spit out his drink. Well, Shu has short hair, and Swan is just a little boy who's been guessing people's gender based on their hair length. I think we can all relate to that. Since that day, Swan has begun to feel more comfortable with Shu, and the training has become much more bearable for him because of her. But honestly, there are times when mental strength just doesn't cut it, you know? Like today, when Shu sees him totally breaking down, saying his body is in pain and crying about wanting to take revenge on everyone who's hurt him. When he wakes up, he notices that his wounds are much better, noticing that Shu has a scratch on her shoulder. Suddenly, he recalls that before passing out, he was clutching so hard on her as he ranted that he didn't want to become someone who would have to endure others' pain when they did not care about his suffering, which was how he scratched her shoulder. What he just blurted out was a family secret, so he wants to erase her memories, which she refuses, causing him to run out of patience, screaming that this was what he and his family were made for. As a result, Shu allows Swan to do whatever he wants and watches as he transfers her wounds onto himself before healing them. He then shares that in order to save someone who's dying, he must endure life-threatening injuries himself, which is why he's undergoing such gruesome training. Shu also learns that Swan's training has begun earlier than that of previous heirs due to his high-level mana. That's enough information for now. It's time to ask Shu how she enhanced his healing abilities. Our girl looks away, but Swan suspects she must have studied white magic using the magic stone he gave her before. Since there's no reason to hide it anymore, she proudly informs him that she created a magic formula that can boost his powers. With a warm smile, she assures him that he can always count on her, which makes him feel really good inside. When it's time for Shushu to go home, our always grumpy Swan uses those irresistible puppy eyes to beg her not to leave yet. So she decides to plop next to him and agrees to leave once he falls asleep. In the end, Shu drifts off to sleep first while Swan watches her with concern, thinking about how she might get hurt by being involved with him, leading him to contemplate the idea of erasing her memories. However, he really doesn't want Shushu to forget their time together, so he decides to hold on. And look! Please appreciate his little tiny hand grasping Shu's sleeves. I really want to give him the warmest hug. Today, Swan arrives at the West Manor and greets Shushu first, causing our darling Hestia to pout, reminding him that she is closer to Shushu than he is. The two are clearly competing for Shu's attention, and while Swan dislikes Hestia, he admits that he enjoys spending time with the two kids. That night is another torturous day for our poor boy, but for some reason his wounds just won't close. So he decides to lie down and patiently wait for his sunshine, Shushu. He remembers that she can't make it tonight because she's planning to spend time with Hess, who's been feeling a bit neglected lately. With no other choice, he tries to endure the pain while holding on to the hope of seeing Shushu the next day. But out of nowhere, his wounds start reopening, making these sounds that are so intense you can't even hear him scream. Just imagining this is breaking my heart. He's had enough. It's a struggle he can't handle anymore, driving him to go crazy until Shushu arrives, horrified to find him engulfed in his own blood on that gruesome bed. This precious baby is completely exhausted and just asks Shu to put him out of his misery since his wounds aren't healing anymore, so she might as well just end it for him. Shu feels a surge of anger over what he's saying, but Swan snaps back, saying he's in so much pain and just wants to escape his nightmare of a life. Listening to him beg non-stop leaves her totally speechless, but eventually she finds her voice and tells him she's not going to do what he wants. She smirks, stating his favor will haunt her, so her brilliant solution is for him to share his misery with her. She then bumps their heads together and a magic circle lights up, making Swan scream for her to stop. As she lets him go, her body begins to shred and tear, leaving him in a state of disbelief and horror. Yet our girl somehow manages to smile, marveling at the fact that the magic formula she created to copy Swan's power really works. Swan cries out to Shu, demanding she return his wounds, but Shushu explains that she will only do so once her mana is steady. Plus, she has the magic stone to help her control it, so they will be fine. But to their horror, the stone just breaks and Shu starts coughing up blood. The sound of her body tearing apart is so intense that Swan freaks out and screams. He's gripping his head, shaking, and his eyes are totally wide in shock because these wounds are already too much for him to deal with. So an ordinary person without any healing powers like Shu is definitely going to die. He suddenly thinks of someone and without a second thought, bursts into his dad's office yelling for him to save Shushu. Fortunately, the Duke is able to save Shushu from death, but she still requires additional rest to regain her own mana. The Duke reminds Swan that he must remove her memories related to their healing magic, but Swan decides to erase all of his memories within Shushu's memories. He fears she will try to help him again, so he enters her memories, which are filled with lantern memories. When he finds his lantern, he blows the candle out and lets it sink. As he's about to leave, he knocks over a happy memory of Shushu giving Hestia the pen, so he chooses to make amends by healing one of Shushu's memories. Oh, now it makes sense why Shu can't recall the pen! Anyway, he searches around for wine-red lanterns, which are a sign of a painful memory, and is completely shocked when he looks up to see countless of those very lanterns. It is actually memories of Shushu's previous life, and Swan gets confused when he sees a girl with black hair, Shu's past self, in one of the lanterns. This gives me chills! The Duke informs Swan that with his skill level, it is almost time for his pilgrimage, which is similar to on-the-job training, in which he must travel to battlefields to heal people before being eligible to become the Duke. It will take at least 10 years, but with Swan's ability, the Duke is confident he will finish much sooner. And because he genuinely wants Swan to assist in managing their family, he offers to send him to the academy or wherever Shushu intends to attend. Swan starts to wonder why his father brought him to the West Manor, and even encouraged him to take swordsmanship classes, especially since he has magic and doesn't really need them. Well, the Duke thinks it's important to give him fresh air because during the Duke's time, he was trapped and suffered at the hands of his father, which ultimately led to him taking his father's life. He's already aware that Swan might end up killing him in the future, so the swordsmanship lesson is just to make sure he can do it cleanly. Swan disliked his father, but after hearing his story, he no longer wants to kill him. Swan has decided not to rekindle his friendship with Shushu right away, since he does not want her to suffer again as a result of his incompetence, so he is using his pilgrimage to strengthen himself. It was tough, but he endured it so that one day he'd be confident enough to face Shushu. However, now that he attends the same academy as her, he has become such a shy boy that he is unable to look her in the eyes. Help! This boy is bias-wrecking me! It's nice to see that after all the challenges, the father and son have grown closer. Just look at them enjoying a game of chess together. But I don't think they're gonna be all sweet and stuff, alright? Swan defeats the Duke and leaves, having just stopped by to pick up the best potions for Shushu, who often gets hurt. As a father, the Duke senses that something must have happened to Swan. Swan hates how many insects surround Shushu while he's away, particularly Hestia, who constantly gets in his way. His dislike for Hes began when they were children. At the time, he attempted to approach Shushu at parties, but Hes continued to brainwash our girl, telling her that our baby boy is rude to everyone. Thinking about that just gets him so mad. But when he spots Shushu from afar, all those bad vibes disappear and he turns into a total softie. He's trying to hand Shu the potions, but since Hes is there, he just strolls by, kinda annoyed. Then he stops, does a quick turnaround, and gives Shushu this shy little nod. That afternoon, a student walks to the training area to deliver Shushu a love letter, which Hylli teases her about, but the letter is actually for Hestia. When Hylli notices that the student is pushing Shushu around, he gets serious and orders the guy to do it himself. It's giving only I can make fun of my siblings energy. Hylli feels irritated when he sees Shushu being treated like an errand girl by any guy. He then quickly grabs the letter from Shushu to return it to the blue-haired student, bluntly telling him to take care of his own letter. They are still chatting when Swan shows up with a trash picker, surprising everyone. For context, Swan has been picking fights, so he needs to do community service as a punishment. Shushu and Hylli find themselves puzzled as Swan instructs the blue-haired student to open his mouth, casually declaring that trash belongs in the trash bin while placing the letter inside the student's mouth. This prompts the blue-haired student to run away as Swan playfully follows, teasing him further, while Hylli feels a sense of satisfaction from the situation despite finding Swan irritating. Afterwards, as Shushu prepares to leave, Hylli quickly calls her to inform that he is withdrawing his request for her assistance in pursuing Hestia, and explains that he finds it impolite to seek her help in that matter. Plus, he just wants to focus on fighting these days, particularly with her. This causes her to pause for a moment, before internally celebrating that a significant part of her role as a matchmaker is over. That night, after showering, Shushu feels refreshed when she sees Hazel working on something. She discovers that Hazel is making hair accessories that she plans to feature in her family's magazine company. Hazel then asks Shushu if she wants to be her model, but Shushu quickly suggests that the accessories would look better on Hestia, and offers to ask her directly, which excites Hazel. Meanwhile, Hestia feels gloomy as she reads her love letters. But when Shushu knocks on her door, it makes Hestia smile, and she quickly runs to hug Shushu tightly. Our girl then discovers hundreds of love letters on Hestia's bed, and wonders if she's already found someone interesting. Darling, it's you! Kidding. Or not. Hes picks one letter for Shushu to read, but Shushu hesitates, prompting Hestia to reassure her that it is fine to read it, which confuses her. Shu's mood totally shifts when she reads the letters from the guy saying Hes shouldn't ghost him since she's the one who played it flirty. Some men see Hes as just something they can buy, while others are super pushy, asking her to stop playing hard to get. The heck is wrong with them? Hestia's eyes seem lifeless as she mentions that everyone views her as just a decorative flower, but she finds comfort in hugging Shushu. Our girl feels a bit guilty because she sort of envies how popular Hes is, but now she's realizing that all that attention comes with a bunch of trashy people too. This is the dark side of being popular. Just to clarify, Hes still receives regular love letters, but Shushu is determined to get back at those who sent Hes mean letters. She mentions throwing them away, but the reality is, our bestie girlie has a plan to hunt them down. To cheer Hes up, they go over to Shushu's room and dive into a makeover sesh with Hazel. Hes is totally serving princess vibes, and Shushu is just too adorable with those buns. They then wrapped up the night with the cutest pic together. Ah, my Lebanese besties! The next day, Shushu arrives at class looking like an orange broccoli because Hazel applied her experimental hairspray product to her. Yves finds her so cute that he ends up hugging her. But that was a bad decision, mister! Swan becomes enraged and begins chasing him with weapons. As expected, Hylli laughs at her while Corey shivers and does his best to hold back his laughter. I really like everyone's personalities. Thank goodness her hair is back to normal after washing it, but then she overhears some girls trash-talking Hestia in the locker room. Hestia gets called pretty with an empty head, and you can just feel Shushu's rage as she totally wrecks the locker. Isabel, the girl with the purple hair, is totally unbothered by what just went down, insisting she's just spitting facts, which makes Shushu completely snap and grab her. Y'all know what's about to go down, right? They end up fighting, but it's a type of fight that Shushu isn't familiar with since it's that hair-pulling thing, and now she's got a bald spot. Goodness, give her hair a break! As a punishment, she has to stay in the dorm, but feeling quite bored, she decides to visit Hestia's room, only to find that she isn't there. She then spots the fountain pen and recalls that she got it for Hess after seeing Hestia's book on history and the political system. It was difficult for kids to understand, but Shushu discovered that Hess was interested in it and had made notes on how she could contribute to their empire. After that, Shushu understood that Hess's well-behaved and cutesy personality was shaped by her parents' expectations. But deep down, little Hestia just couldn't break free and pursue her real dreams. Suddenly, Shushu hears Hestia stomping outside, so she hastily hides and witnesses the real Hestia. Hess bursts through her door, totally furious that those girls are trash-talking Shushu, and now she's ready to squat up with Swan, Yves, and the whole crew. However, when she sees Shushu, she stops in horror, as if her soul had just left her body. Ma'am, if you want to be a baddie and protect your girl, we support you. Shushu lies down on the bed and sweetly asks Hess to do the same, and Hess cutely follows along. Shushu really hopes that Hess can show her true self, as she knows she can't always be there to protect her, which makes her gently pat her head. Shushu views Hess as family and is curious about Hess's feelings towards her. In response, Hess snuggles closer and expresses that Shushu is an incredible person who will always be there to help her. This makes Shushu sit up and realize that her overprotectiveness might have held Hestia back, so she gently tells Hestia to stop being so attached to her. Shushu's goal is to become an Imperial Knight, get a pension, and retire, but she knows that Hess has greater ambitions. Oh, could this be a little clue that she might become an Empress? This causes Hess to start crying because she feels scared without Shushu by her side. But instead of wiping away her tears, Shushu hands her the pen, saying she gave it to her before to encourage her and she hopes it works its magic again this time. Before leaving the room, Shushu opens up that she too needs someone to lean on and hopes it could be Hestia, which catches Hestia off guard. She then remembers how that little Shushu promised to support her, making her hold the pen so close to her heart. This is so heartwarming. Just best friends rooting for each other to be their best selves. The next day, Shushu is unsure how to approach Hess because she is scared she has made her bestie very sad with her confrontational words yesterday. However, as she peeks into the classroom, she is surprised to see Isabel and her sidekicks apologizing to Hess. Shushu walks in to see what's up, and the ladies start apologizing to her while she spots their bald patches. Yup, the smiling, adorable Hess totally did that to them. Isabel explains that she felt horrible about their fight since she actually likes Shushu, and entered the swordsmanship department because she admires her. Oh no, not in front of the bestie! Hearing this, the once innocent and demure Hess rushes to grab Isabel, shuts her mouth, and delivers a legendary, "She's mine and I'm hers" line. Yes, let's just convince ourselves that this is all about a platonic friendship. Shushu looks so surprised because while she hopes Hess will let out her true self, she's a little concerned about whether this version of her is okay. When Hess smiles sweetly at her, Shushu can't help but smile back, realizing that Hess is finally spreading her wings. Now that I think about it, Hess is kind of like a female version of Swan. It's club time and Corey is curious about how Shushu feels about Hess's sudden change. Our girl is okay with it since she saw it coming, but there's one thing that's bothering her. Hess has become bolder in challenging her to beat her in their history exam. I'm really proud of Hess. It was Shushu who came up with the idea for the bet, saying that the loser would have to grant the winner's wish. However, she didn't expect Hess to become so happy and confident in beating her, which has really fired her up now. Recently, Hess has been so dedicated to her studies that her classmates have noticed the changes in her. Even Shushu notices Hess's dark circles, messy hair, and dry skin, which inspires her to study more too. These besties still enjoy their walks together, but this time it's all about the books, with no chit-chatting. Just them immersed in their reading. Corey is feeling concerned because they're so dedicated to their studies that it seems like they might collapse any minute now. He then takes out a ruler and declares that Hestia and Shushu's eye bags are greater than his, before seriously stating that they will undoubtedly faint. Yes, more screen time for my best boy Corey and his colorful blankies. Still, our two girls don't believe him, so he decides to join them in the library and keep an eye out in case anything happens. For the first time, Hess talks to Corey and tells him that he used to look like trash, but now knows he isn't so bad. However, this is not the beginning of a new friendship because Hess informs him that she is the closest person to Shushu, prompting Corey to show off the earring Shushu made for him before lifting Shushu's hair to reveal the earring he made for her. In short, they exchange gifts to celebrate their friendship, which shocked Hess so much that all the colors on her body left. This baby definitely felt so betrayed that she began crying, prompting Shushu to promise that they will get matching items after the exam. Exams are finally done, which makes Corey curious about who won the bet. But Shushu isn't too pleased with the results. That's because this was Hestia's first time studying hard, so she became nervous and passed out in the middle of the test. Bummer! My bet was on Hess since their test is about history. Well, a bet is a bet. For Shushu's wish, she wants Hess to join the newspaper club and help promote her Magic Circle Control Club. Next, Shushu hands Hess a bunch of books about politics and history and asks her to write reviews on them. This catches Hess off guard, and she responds that she can't do it. It looks like she could use a little encouragement, so Shushu has to come clean about seeing her secret books when they were kids, which makes Hess feel so shy. When Shushu cheerfully compliments Hess on her writing skills, it truly warms her heart and motivates her to give it a try. Since Shushu asks for 2 wishes, she decides to grant Hess 1 wish, and it turns out to be a truly wholesome wish. Hess feels emotional as she asks Shushu not to leave her, even if she gets tired of her, causing Shushu to hug her and suggest they get their friendship necklaces. Before Hestia can keep her promise to Shushu, she needs to deal with something, so she returns home to speak with her mother, who looks so beautiful yet lifeless. Hess's father apparently instilled in Hess the importance of not being ambitious, and instead focusing on her appearance in order to find a decent husband, whereas her mother, who was full of life before marriage, died on the inside. Her mother would cry and encourage Hess to follow her father, which is how she ended up wearing a mask. But when she met Shushu, she discovered that being a girl does not limit what you may accomplish. However, since she didn't have the freedom, she held on to Shushu tightly, but now she understands that being dependent isn't helping her grow. To spread her wings, she realizes that she needs to break free from her parents first. When Hess mentions wanting to study and join the journalism club, her mother becomes enraged and reminds her that she must follow her father's orders of marrying after graduation. No, she wants to help people like her mom and build a world where talented people are accepted and don't have to hide, which makes her mom cry, but she also believes Hess will be powerless to do anything. Hess does not expect her mom to support her, so she walks away, prompting her mom to tell her that her father will never forgive her, and she must leave the house after she graduates. Hess turns one last time and smiles at her mom, feeling sorry for not being the daughter she hopes for, which makes her mom cry even more. Hestia is for the girlies who decided to break the cycle and pursue their dreams. Today, Hess informs her club members that she's quitting the gardening club to join the journalism club next semester, which surprises everyone. However, our brave girly pop is unconcerned about what others may think of her changes, because she's just concerned with what Shushu thinks of her. All of a sudden, a thought pops into Hess's mind, and she realizes that Shushu will definitely date someone someday, so she starts to wonder who might be worthy of her bestie. First, there's Hylli, who has matured but is still quite childish, so maybe. Second is Corey, who she knows is a wonderful person but isn't perfect, so we'll see. Correction, my boy is perfect! Next is Yves, who's always clinging to Shushu, making him a no-no for her. Swan is the last on her list. But before she can describe him, she takes him off her list. Hes can clearly see that Swan has a crush on Shushu, but since she suspects that he is responsible for a part of Shushu's memory being lost, including the details about the pen, she just can't bring herself to forgive him. Just thinking about it makes her blood boil, but when Shushu calls her, she instantly turns into a cotton ball soft girl. Hes and Swan are really similar, which is probably why they hate each other so much. Time flew by, and Kerim has joined the academy while our main leads are nearly finished with their 3rd year in junior. As promised, Hes is now a member of the newspaper club, and Shushu was first concerned about her bestie, but everyone was so impressed by her work that even the professors applauded her. Just to give you some examples, their restrooms became shiny once she raised the problem, and she ensured Swan's punishment for being a troublemaker was severe, such as dealing with filthy garbage. She did that on purpose for sure. The lady they all thought was an empty head has become a big shot in the academy and is now an influential figure. Beauty and brains? I love her. Shushu feels happy for Hes, but our girl did not expect her bestie to use her powers to simp over her. You see, whenever there's a special feature, Hes makes sure that it is about Shushu, such as articles on her charms, how good she is at thrifting, or how skilled she is with swords. Today, she hides behind a bush as she witnesses Hylli and Corey heading to the newspaper booth, with Corey getting 5 copies for display, reading, safekeeping, and 1 in case his other copies are damaged. Hylli also gets a bunch, but for a different reason. 1 for reading, 1 to tease Shushu, and the rest if she takes it from him. Shushu is fed up with them, so she reveals herself and uses her fire magic to go after the 2 boys. As if she wasn't exhausted enough, even Swan arrive and begin fighting over the newspaper, compelling her to simply give up and eat. Kerim, looking absolutely adorable in his first-year uniform, takes his time to chat with Shushu, who finds out that Swan, Corey, Hylli, and even Yves have all been lending a helping hand to her brother. I really love everyone. Kerim may not have a natural talent for magic, and he might not be the strongest candidate for becoming a swordsman, but if given the choice, he would love to excel in magic because it allows him to fly. As a loving sister, Shushu made a flying broomstick that night to make her brother's wish come true. If Hes finds out about this, she will definitely create a new headline. Shushu, the best sister ever! Shushu heads out to the field to try out her new invention and is thrilled to see it fly, even though it could use a bit of fine-tuning. Out of nowhere, the broom starts zooming around uncontrollably, and it crashes right into the boys' dormitory, landing in Swan and Yves' room. The loud bang prompts the housemaster to rush into their room, thinking they might be fighting again, but what he finds leaves him completely confused. Swan and Yves are sharing a warm hug, with Shushu tucked in the middle, all cozy under a blanket. They're totally pretending that they're happy with each other, using those flirty looks and voices, and it's making the housemaster cringe so hard that he just bounces from their room. This is so gay! Gold, I mean! Shushu comes out from the blanket after being squished, while Yves expresses concern that test driving at night can be risky, before giving her another warm hug. Yves instantly receives a kick in the face from Swan, which Yves appears to be used to. But as the older one here, he encourages Shushu to hurry back because if she's discovered, not only will she be punished, but rumors will certainly spread. Shushu wants to, but she spent too much mana to teleport, and she doesn't want to ride her broom because it's still unsteady. Swan is unable to help her either, as he has a restraining bracelet that limits his magic. This situation is all due to his mortal enemy, Hestia, who actually went to the disciplinary committee to ensure he faced harsher penalties. Their next option is to seek assistance from Corey, whose room is conveniently located just below them. Since they can't use the stairs because it's already past curfew, they decide to just go through the window. Swan wraps a blanket around Shushu, turning her into Sushi Shu, as he's concerned she might have some injuries from the crash. He then uses his healing power, making our girl feel like she's on cloud 9 before wrapping around him, jumping right out of the window and landing right in Hylli and Corey's room. Swanee, wearing his adorable sheep sleep mask, looks so proud of his perfect landing, and to add to Hylli's confusion, Yves shows up all smiles too. They are clearly furious, but as soon as Shushu's head pokes out of the burrito blanket, they calm down. Corey put her to bed and tucked her in with his blankie, making Shushu ask him if she looked ridiculous right now. My best boy smiles at her and tells her she looks pretty and cute, which makes her blush and think Corey is a bit strange. It's really a mystery that she still hasn't fallen for this wonderfully sweet man. The boys start brainstorming ideas to help Shushu return home, and once they come up with a plan, they gather around her to gently let her know that it's time for her to head back. My oh my, they all look so fine! How to be Shushu. Cory ties Sushi Shu to the broom while the three boys clap as if they're enjoying a performance, and then they wave goodbye as Cory sends her flying. Everyone is just so silly! After all that trouble, Shushu is finally able to give the broom to Karim in perfect condition, and she feels so happy to see her little brother zoom around. Cutie! The school year has reached that exciting time when the hallways are buzzing with students eager to ask out their special someone for the upcoming junior-senior party. Even Hess is surrounded by guys, but sorry boys, this girl only has her eyes on her bestie. Hess happily waves at Shushu and expresses gratitude for the friendship necklace she gave that can mute the chaos around her. Shushu waves back, thinking Hess is just the cutest. Shushu is eager to reach her seat next to Hess, but she finds herself unable to do so because of the boys. So she decides to take a little break and head to the bathroom, only to be surprised when she spots the male leads outside her room. Hylli is holding a lovely bouquet of red flowers. Cory has a bright bouquet of orangey yellow flowers, and Swan has a huge bouquet of beautiful lilac flowers. She has her own harem and doesn't even realize it. Shushu simply believes they're here to ask Hestia to be their partner. But just before Cory can respond, Yves comes running in with 3 black flowers. Absolutely, the harem wouldn't be the same without him. Yves just about to ask Shushu to be his partner when out of nowhere, Swan smacks him. Cory shoves a lollipop in his mouth while Hylli scoops him up and off they go in a hurry. Literally so chaotic. Tonight is the party, but it seems like no one from the dummies had the courage to ask Shushu, so she looks a bit lonely in her room. However, since attendance is mandatory, she decides to get all dressed up, but she ends up looking like a total clown with that makeup and that wild green outfit that totally freaks Hazel out. She's lucky to have such an amazing roomie, so with a little bit of force, Hazel can turn Shushu into a stunningly beautiful angelic lady. Who is this diva? Everybody, say thank you, Hazel! Shushu is now hurrying to the venue when she hears splashing in the pond, but she chooses to ignore it, fearing that there will be no food left. When she arrives, she runs into one of the male students who is furious but ends up blushing when he discovers how beautiful our girl is. Shushu then sees her older brother and Hess from a distance, laughing as they watch something on a recording orb. Girl, I'm 100% sure it's about you. Actually, Hess requested Haroon to be her partner, which causes Shushu to smirk evilly and cheer for Haroon because if they end up together, Hess will become her real family, her sister-in-law. It seems like a ship is sailing. Shushu chooses to let them be, and that's when she spots Hylli in the corner, looking perfect in that all-black outfit with his hair styled up. As soon as Hylli spots her, he can't help but feel surprised and starts to blush at the sight of her all dressed up. He glances away while explaining that he doesn't have a partner and struggles to talk properly, so Shushu grabs his face, pushing him to look at her. This prompts him to quickly mention that Swan left because she wasn't around, and Cory went out to search for her before swiftly walking away. Look who's all shy now. Shushu decides to grab a bite to eat, but as she starts to feel a bit bored, she thinks it might be fun to go find Cory. She steps outside, unaware of the chilly night air, and her eyes light up as she takes in the stunning sight of the Ogren field, alive with vibrant red flowers. She then spots Cory afar and thinks he looks really cute shivering, before realizing that this once little boy has truly grown into a fine man. As soon as Cory sees her, he looks completely captivated, and just like Hylli, he can't seem to meet her gaze and starts to stutter. Shushu is beginning to think that she looks a bit odd, which makes Cory feel compelled to admit that she's so pretty that it is difficult to look at her. They simply gazed at one another as the field worked its enchanting magic, swaying and glowing just for them. Shushu bursts into laughter, clearly not believing Cory, while my best boy gently drapes the blankie over her and repeats his earlier words. She is really pretty. Shushu begins to feel warm, a soft blush appearing on her cheeks as she realizes how gentle and kind Cory has always been to her. She can sense that he cares, but she wonders if it's just because he has a little sister and might be looking out for her like a big brother. Wow, She surely put Hess and Cory in the family zone. She's so dense that it hurts. As they walk, Shushu discovers that Cory really wanted to ask her to be his partner. And it's not just him. Hylli and Swan feel the same way too. She feels a bit flustered about it, but she suggests to Cory that he should look for a real partner next time instead of her, his friend. I can't with them. Cory, you better not give up. Remember the splashing in the pond earlier? Yup, Swan collapsed after seeing how beautiful Shushu was, so he chose to become the prettiest swan you'll ever see. He approaches Shushu, his cheeks and ears flushed red as he glances away, and hands her a frozen white rose. My gosh, so pretty! Once she says thank you, Swan swiftly heads back to the water, leaving her feeling somewhat worried. But Cory suggests that they let him be. Of course, Cory, being the kind-hearted boy that he is, leaves Swan a blankie. Shushu, along with Hylli and Cory, is having a great time with the sweets. When the two other simps, Hess and Big Bro Haroon, arrive, their eyes lighting up at how lovely Shushu is. Hylli and Cory head out for a bit due to an emergency, while Haroon advises Shushu to steer clear of Yves, saying she's too good for him, and Hess nods in approval. Speaking of the man, Yves shows up and whispers something to Hess, causing our lovely pink-haired girlie to quickly run off with Haroon. It turns out that Hess walked right into Yves' trap, which he had carefully set up so he could have some time alone with our girl. Everyone is just attacking me with their beauty. Yves excitedly gives Shushu a massive gift to commemorate her junior year graduation, surprising her so much. Upon seeing the designer items, which she assumes are expensive, she fears they might be a bribe. Shu bluntly expresses her concern that he may eventually ask for something in exchange, causing this man to place his face on her hand, telling her that it is all simply gifts and that he will never lie to her. Suddenly, Hess returns, outraged about Yves' lies, but the other girls swiftly take her away again, explaining that the Auguring Queen announcement is almost here, and she must wait backstage. Just in time for Cory and Hylli to return, both boys are certain that Yves manipulates everything to his advantage, and to ease the tension, Yves suggests they play card games. They are surely having fun when the thoroughly soaked Swan joins them, allowing Cory to use his power to dry him off instantly. Watching these little freaks playing cards in the middle of a party is so wholesome. Just then, the announcement for the junior-senior prom queen is made, which causes them to pause, and obviously, Hestia is chosen as the new queen. Observing Hestia from a distance fills Shu with jealousy, as she realizes she can never be like her. Noticing Shu's expression, Swan quickly creates a crown from the playing cards and places it on her head, stuttering as he tells her it looks lovely on her, prompting Shu to smile sweetly and thank him. Her pretty smile stuns all the boys, inspiring them to craft something from the playing cards to present to her, which leads her to stop them. They are now walking back to the dorm, and Hess laughs as Shushu describes what the boys did earlier. Shushu feels that everyone thinks she's envious since she kept staring at Hess while she was on stage, which is understandable since Hess shines. Hess quickly lifts her crown and sets it on Shushu's head, assuring her friend that she shines brighter than anyone she has ever seen, which warms Shushu's heart. Beautiful friendship makes me so happy! Soon after, their winter vacation arrives, which excites everyone. However, Hess and Shu's brother are surprised when Shu reveals she's going to fight monsters, prompting her to explain that their department failed to achieve the quota for monster hunts that semester, leaving her with no choice. So she lets Haroon take everyone home and assures them she'll be back soon. In the mountains, Shu feels a surge of excitement because she's nearly finished with her quota. Suddenly, a rustling sound startles her, revealing a huge snake poised to attack Hylli, who seems to be not focusing. Shu instinctively rushes to save him and immediately scolds Hylli for just standing there. She urges him to focus, and just then Cory appears, leading Shu to remind him to focus as well. The three of them start planning to meet on their vacation, which prompts Hylli to suggest they go ice fishing, which is absolutely not a good idea. After that, Shu brings her box of collected cores to where they transport them and inquires with the person in charge about their purpose, knowing that they are the source of a monster's strength. But they are ultimately useless since they cannot be repurposed to create anything else. However, it seems like he knows nothing and just does the transportation, causing her to assume the situation is too suspicious to overlook. As a result, she quickly activates search magic, monitors mana movement to find the core's final destination, and discovers it is the top of the Augurin Mountain. This causes her to wonder why they are gathering cores and sending them to that location. But nah, she decides to ignore it because it's vacation time. She is now home and she makes time for her family and Hess. Guess who's on call that evening? Corey! He asks about her time with her family before informing her that Hylli will be unable to meet with them. As a result, Shushu and Corey go on a date. Yes, it is a date because I said so. Just look at them! They seem so perfect while doing their vacation homework, wandering around the market and enjoying delicious desserts together. Shushu has returned home, and because she has so much fun, she feels horrible that Hylli will feel left out, so she calls him. As soon as Hylli responds, he hastily apologizes for not being able to join them earlier. Our girl senses something is wrong and confronts him about it, but he seems unwilling to reveal anything to her. To close their discussion, she encourages him to stay strong, but all she gets is a good night, which makes her even more worried. But who are we kidding? Shushu makes sure that she has a great time shopping and eating throughout her vacation. She was meant to spend the day with my Corey, but they ran into Yves by chance and both boys began competing to buy her things. She's smiling on her bed when Hylli comes to mind again, reminding her that the novel will begin during their senior year, right after this vacation. The Hylli she knows is usually smiling and sweet, but she is concerned that he will become a dark and aloof prince, as depicted in the novel. Almost forgot she's within a dark novel. She's still thinking about him when someone throws a rock at her window, and as she looks up, she notices Hylli in the tree. Seeing his face, Shushu realizes he's come to ask her for something, which leads Hylli to hand her some documents. He asks her to check it, and she confidently replies that she can finish it by tomorrow. She adds that she doesn't need his money. All she wants is plenty of royal desserts. It's been quite a while since we last saw Shushu in her Schneeball in disguise, and that definitely means this investigation is pretty serious. She carefully conducted background checks on all the palace staff, and even looked through the surveillance logs, but Shushu hasn't found anything suspicious. That night, Hylli arrives looking messy and worn out, but he still manages to bring Shushu the desserts and has everything packed up nicely. As she happily munches away, our dear prince starts to cry while reading the documents. It's hard to see him like this. Shushu seems really worried, but she can't find the courage to ask what happened, so she just watches Hylli leave with a rather cold expression. She chose to wait for him to reach out, but he never returned. It is the start of another school year, and lovely roomy Hazel looks more mature with her short hair. Shushu remains our short queen girly, while Hess and Corey have become more adult-looking, which upsets her. I know, guys, the gang is missing someone, and our girl is worried that he would never return to school. But to her surprise, someone jokingly pats her head. Yes, it's Hylli back at it with that cute smile, playfully saying she's gotten a bit taller. Stop pretending you're okay, mister. We can totally tell something's up. Shushu wants to ask whether he's okay, but this man is so skilled at teasing her that they wind up squabbling and discussing their new swordsmanship instructor. During class break, Shushu can't help but be concerned about Hylli, and Corey suspects something is up with him as well because he rarely visits the dorm. According to what he knows, Hylli has been going straight to the palace after class, most likely due to the rumors about changes in the royal family. During training, Shushu can only look at Hylli in shock since the way he strikes his sword is so violent, which he would never do. She can easily see that Hylli is angry and has deep wounds when Swan appears next to her, boldly stating that he knows what is wrong with Hylli. His serious look does not match his words when he states Hylli has constipation, which irritates our girl. But before she can argue with him, he hands her a sandwich. He sheepishly advises her not to skip meals, but when she claims she has no appetite, he uses his powers to restore her hunger. Oh, our shy boy is steadily making his move. It's lunchtime and Hess feels guilty about leaving Shushu alone, but she has journalism work to do, which Shushu understands. However, she blames Swan for her ongoing hunger when she's surprised to discover Hylli with his new brown hair color. He sits with her and claims that dyeing his hair is only a change of pace, prompting her to finally bring up the subject of why he's been going to the palace recently. Hylli is thinking about asking her a question as well, but after a moment of silence, he simply says never mind, which definitely frustrates her. To make up for it, he suggests they take a walk together, but since our girl is still hungry, he chooses to wait for her while catching some sleep. Hylli hasn't talked to her since that day, so she resolves to investigate on her own, but all she finds out is about the Empire's founding myths. They say the first emperor obtained power by slaying a dragon and biting its heart, which is how the royal family wields dark magic. The Blanche family is born with white mana and can use white magic, whereas the Ord family is not born with dark mana but can use dark magic as long as they have an object that can supply dark mana. This artifact is a cherished heirloom of the royal family, and to maintain its power, they chose to practice inbreeding. Wait, so they just marry their relatives? Anyway, Shushu is taken aback by this finding and wonders if it has anything to do with Hylli's situation. She rests down on the roof, and because of Hylli, she can't help but remember her previous self, who was worried about her brother who had returned home with numerous injuries. He then shoves her away, claiming he doesn't need her help. Hylli reminds her so much of her brother, which is why she is so hurt that Hylli does not trust her as much as her brother does when it comes to problems. Today is practice day, and my goodness, Hylli seems a bit off. His eyes look so bloodthirsty. Shushu asks him to calm down, but he ignores her and is about to smash her in the head when Swan appears and blocks Hylli's wooden sword. His arm was literally sliced. Imagine if it hit Shushu's head. Swan heals himself, and as a ruthless bully, he gladly challenges Hylli to a sword fight. Swan's attacks, perhaps influenced by his battlefield experience, are more unpredictable. Look at him using his legs to choke the prince! The prince is clearly losing, and after Swan smashes Hylli's sword, he decides not to use his own sword but instead kicks him, yelling about how he dislikes Hylli's dream about Shushu. Swan then splashes Hylli with water, which ultimately wakes him up, and as soon as Hylli calls Shushu, Swan turns into a goody two-shoes, healing him. He completely forgot that Shushu was watching! Swan then walks over to Shushu to explain his reasons and heals her before presenting her with a ring that he has enchanted with healing magic. He casually places it on her ring finger, surprising her so much that she quickly moves it to her thumb, leaving him looking quite gloomy. No matching friendship accessories, and he goes straight to marry her! Anyway, Hylli's expression shows he wants some alone time, so they choose to respect that and head out. However, Shushu can't bring herself to leave Hylli that afternoon, so she returns to the training field with sandwiches. She then notices Hylli curled up behind a bush, and so she gently covers him with a blanket, causing Hylli to cry even more. But this time, he lets her hug him. Having a friend like Shushu is a blessing! The next day, Hylli approaches Shushu with a bucket of popsicles and apologizes for losing control during their training. He's lucky that his peace offering is exactly what she wants, so the apology is accepted, and they decide to eat together when cute Swan appears behind them. He starts following them, so when Shushu asks what he wants, he nervously asks for ice cream, and the three of them enjoy their stroll to class while eating it. Cuties. Shushu learns from Cory that Hylli went to Swan's class, which makes her nervous that something might happen, so she rushes into the room and discovers Hylli disrupting Swan's sleep. Hylli asks Swan for help and discloses something that Duke Blanche cannot solve, but he still wants Swan to check. Swan claims that he would be unable to fix it, but when he notices Shushu watching them, he instantly acts nice and agrees to help Hylli, citing the fact that this is what friends do. Shushu instantly enters the room and excitedly asks when this secret mission will begin, before repeating the line about how friends support each other. There's no point arguing now, so Hylli decides to bring along Shushu, and just like that, they're in a carriage on their way to the palace. Shushu is looking outside. Hylli is quiet throughout the ride, and Swan is also quiet, but only because he is scribbling something. He then shyly hands the paper to Shushu, and oh, it's a portrait of her, but kinda scary. Wow, is that hyperpigmentation? Swanee is beaming with joy over his masterpiece, while our girl seems to think he's trying to pick a fight. They've finally arrived, and truly, the palace is very unique with its black paint and decor, making it appear so magnificent. The Empire adores black because of the Black Dragon myth. Plus, the royal family is always born with either black hair or black eyes. This is also why people love Big Bro Haroon. He has those beautiful black eyes he got from their grandmother, the princess. Anyway, Hylli leads them to a secret passage, and when they arrive in a room, Shushu is startled to see a massive magic circle on the floor. They enter the magic circle, and because Hylli is unable to use magic, he uses a special liquid to transport them to a subspace. Shushu notes right away that they're in a typical house, and in the corner, a lovely lady who appears to be unwell is seated on a rocking chair. Hylli approaches a lady, But as soon as she sees him, she becomes terrified and throws things at him, repeating the words kill and black hair. Hylli goes to Shushu and asks her to change his hair color, which calms the lady down and allows Hylli to put her into the bed. Shushu is simply observing everything because she has no idea what is going on, whereas Swan appears to be aware of the situation and goes on trying to heal the lady. From what Shushu knows, Hylli's parents are the Emperor and Empress, but not until the lady screams a man's name, Heslin, and claims he would not have left if it hadn't been for the baby in her tummy. What surprises Shushu even more is when the lady curses the name of the Emperor and the Empress, swearing to kill them all. This prompts Hylli to finally share that the lady, Keurigord Evgadin, is actually his real mother. Finally, some revelations! The former Empress appeared to be unable to bear a child, thus Keurigord was chosen to carry the Emperor's child, Hylli, our charming and sweet prince. From what Hylli heard, the Empress was jealous of Keurigord because, in addition to being the royal family's powerful private mage, she's beautiful and has a loving fiancé. So the Empress totally wrecked Keurigord's life, who was already engaged, and made her have a baby with the Emperor. What the heck is wrong with them? They covered the truth of Hylli's birth, so the trash Emperor and Empress imprisoned his mother, and he had no clue of this until the Empress gave birth to the second prince. Keurigord tried to escape, but after encountering baby Hylli by chance, she found it difficult to leave, despite having the opportunity to do so. She would sneak out to be with him, and there was that one time when she found him in tears. To get him to share his secrets, Keurigord playfully squished his cheeks, and that's when she discovered that the Empress no longer shows him affection after the second prince was born. As a hopeful kid, he thought that if he studied harder and became the best, the Empress would love him again. This made Keurigord give him the warmest hug, assuring him that she would always believe in him. Keurigord would read him stories and sing him lullabies, and that's how they spent time together, in secret. That's a mother's unconditional love right there. Once Hylli discovered the truth, he promised to become the Emperor and save his mom. However, his progress was going so well that it started to pose a threat to the Empress. She wanted her son, the second prince, to become the Emperor, so she paid Hylli's mentor to assassinate him. Yes, I adore that supportive swordsmanship teacher, yet here we are. The Empress wants to make Hylli's death appear accidental, so the teacher gradually casts a curse on him, while his mother, a mage, redirects the curses to herself. When the Empress becomes suspicious of Hylli's continued survival, she orders the teacher to kill his mother, leaving Hylli with little choice but to kill his own teacher. Hylli then spread rumors about his mother's death and created this secret space to hide her, but he couldn't do it alone because he lacked magic powers. So Marquess Dubois, Corey's father and Hylli's mother's friend, created this subspace. Hylli understands that even with Swan's power, he will be unable to heal his mother's health since white magic does not function well with dark magic. Plus, the curse has already spread too deeply. It hurts him that his mom is reliving her traumas, so all he wants is for her to regain her senses, even if just for her last moments. He's so strong for handling all this on his own. Swan is already struggling so badly that he coughs up blood as a result of Keurigord's powerful barrier spell. To help Swan, Shushu considers ways to allow his magic to flow through, so she makes some changes to the magic formula, and voila! His healing magic is now accepted. A genius indeed! Keurigord is now full of life and even laughing so much after seeing the recording of Hylli's romantic, cringy actions. Shushu finds out that the novels Keurigord used to read Hylli are about romance. So in short, it's his mother's fault that he's influenced with so many love lines, making Hylli feel embarrassed. Shushu is out in the flower field making a flower crown for Keurigord, and Hylli takes the chance to thank her for visiting his mother almost every day. Shushu wants to make the most of her time because she doesn't want to feel that way again when her parents in her past life went out and never returned. Hylli feels her eyes welling up, and he gently pats her head, assuring her that he will always be there when she needs help, which eases her heart. But they are interrupted by a guy who keeps saying the word kill. Yup, it is Swan. On her next visit, Shushu takes Keurigord to the field and discovers that it is a copy of Keurigord's hometown. After that, Keurigord throws the bomb and asks Shushu what she thinks about Hylli, who is the perfect husband. However, when Shushu replies they're only friends, Keurigord does not press her and simply tells her something. I'm low-key stressed that everything is just way too happy. So guys, what do you think of this story so far? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!